All right.
All right. The audience participants and general public should be aware that any or all portions of this open meeting may be recorded by audio and video resources. All or some of this meeting may be rebroadcast periodically by WRPS or other outlets. Person wanting a DVD copy of this meeting should contact WRPS or the Board of Selectmen's office. A small fee will be charged. All right, and I know people are still kind of joining in. But the audience, participants, and general public should be aware that if you would like to comment, please turn on your video and ask to be unmuted. You can do this by using the raise hand feature or make a request through the chat function. Any persons calling in on the phone can hit *9 to raise their hand and you will be unmuted. We don't have, we'll go through some presentations first before we get to the general public, but I just want to make everybody aware of that from the beginning. All right. First thing on the agenda, we'll let everybody know who's here before we reorganize, so everyone is aware of it. And everybody is remote, so no one is at town hall, no one is with each other, so everybody's clear on that. We're not gathering without you. So we have John Lucas is here, Randy Hobolitz.
Yeah, give it up.
Who's that?
Blitzel.
Oh, Blitzel, all right. Charlie Williams,
Yes, present.
James Wells, and myself, Michael Corbett. All right, first thing on the agenda, we have to reorganize the board since this is our meeting from the last election. So what is the recommendation of the board for chairman?
I would like to nominate Michael Corbett for chairman.
I'll second that.
Right.
Okay, we have a first and a second. We'll go through it again. John,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
and Michael. I vote yes. All right, I would like to nominate John Lucas for vice chair.
Second.
All right, first and a second. We'll go. Let's see. John, do you accept?
Yes, I will.
I have Charlie,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
and Michael. I vote yes. All right, I would like to nominate Charlie Williams for clerk.
I'll second that.
And then we have a first and a second. Charlie, do you accept?
I do accept.
All right.
I'm honored, actually.
John,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Michael, I vote yes. All right, that takes care of the reorganization of the board. Now we will go to old business, and the first on the agenda is the site and design review for Cresco at 1015 Hingham Street, map 4, lot, was it 1? I don't remember.
11.
Thank you, lot 11. All right, who would like to start that for 1015 Hingham?
Good evening, Chairman Corbett. Christian Picara here, Vice President of Cresco Labs. Congratulations on your landslide victory tonight.
Thank you.
And good evening, members of the board. Chairman Rosa, great to see you again as well. Great to be with you. Really appreciate you taking the time and letting us come back. I know it's been a while since we last met, but I'd be remiss if I didn't reiterate our excitement to become part of the Rockland community, and that's why we're here. So with that, we had a couple of outstanding items that we needed to be addressed from our last meeting. we've got a very short deck that I'd like to put on screen with your permission, Mr. Chairman, to make it easier on folks so we're all looking at the same concepts. Would that be all right?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, great. Let me try it this way. Can you see that?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So with that, let me introduce our zoning counsel, Phil Silverman, kick it off and walk us through some of the items we've addressed for the board's request. Phil, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Phil Silverman from the law firm of Vicente Cedarberg here for Cresco. This is a continued hearing on site plan review. As you recall, my client's seeking to operate a co-located medical and adult use retail marijuana establishment at 1015 Hingham Street. I think we go right to the next slide, Christian. Great. Okay. So at the last hearing, we provided sort of the basic outlines of the project. Again, all of the basics, 37,017 square foot lot with a 5,008 square foot building, 23 parking spaces, signage in accordance with local bylaws. We walked through the customer flow, operational procedures, compliance with state regulated security requirements. And obviously, Christian is here with his team from Cresco. We've got the civil engineer on the project, Don Bracken here, the traffic engineer, Matt Skelly is here. And we can certainly walk through any of those items we covered before again, if you have questions. But I do know that this board has significant experience now with sort of the basic operations of these businesses. So I thought I would focus on the bigger questions you raised last time. And, you know, we wouldn't have to be redundant with some of the things that are sort of common to all of these retail marijuana establishments. But if you have questions on some of those issues, we're certainly happy at the end to answer them. So since the last meeting on March 8th, we submitted an update to our original submission, which was in response to the questions that you raised at that last hearing. So the first was really a bit of housekeeping. You had asked to update the site plan. There were some changes from some sort of prior hearings with respect to this property. The owner of the property had permitted this before, and ZBA had granted a special permit to this client, and there were some updates required regarding sort of traffic flow and also the fence. We've installed a fence on the north perimeter of the property. And so that's covered in here. And we'll talk about the traffic flow in a couple of minutes, but that's what the basics of the updated site plan. The next thing that you were interested in with respect to this site plan was the parking situation. So to allow you to calculate the required parking, our update provided some information that the company would be employing 8 to 10 employees, and that the sales floor consisted of 18 square feet. Actually, our site plan used a slightly higher number of employees. We used 14 employees because that's sort of the maximum that you might ever see there on the busiest day of the year. And so the site plan used that figure instead. But just to walk you through those figures under your parking bylaws, we need 1 space for every 2 employees. So with 14 employees, that means we need 7 spaces for that. We need 1 space for every 300 square feet of retail space. Again, with 1,866 square feet of retail space, that means we need 6.2 spaces for that. And we need 1 space for every 250 square feet of office space. And with 320 square feet of office space, that means we need 1.3 spaces. So you add it all up under your zoning bylaw, we have 7 spaces plus 6.2 plus 1.3, and you round it up. We require 15 parking spaces on this site for this use. And the site actually provides 23 parking spaces. So we believe that we exceed the spaces required by your zoning bylaw. That said, we've taken a very cautious approach here because these are new facilities. They're new. It's a new industry in Massachusetts. And so we've actually provided for an additional 10 parking spaces at nearby 929 Hingham Street, where we will park our employees. As of the last meeting, we hadn't finalized that agreement to have those spaces. We were working on it. We just finalized it the other day. We sent it in, submitted it yesterday. It's probably too late for you to have gotten it. I apologize for that. We just didn't have it signed, but it is in place now. So what we'll be doing is at 929 Hingham, we'll be parking our employees. Again, on average, we have 10 spaces there, and we will shuttle those employees back and forth between the site at the beginning and end of shifts. And this is not that uncommon in our industry to be doing this sort of thing. So we don't expect any operational difficulties to flow from that. Next slide, please. So the last item that you were concerned about was ingress and egress from this site. You may recall that we have 2 ingress egress points on this site. Actually, it may make sense, Christian, if you want to go back. Well, actually, you know what? You can keep that one on. Sorry, my apologies. So one of those is sort of a easement through an easement, which we're showing here. We made an agreement with the neighboring property. We have an easement, and that easement brings you through 1001 Hingham Street and out to a signalized intersection at Commerce Road. I'm going to call that the easement route. We also have a direct route onto Hingham Street. I'm going to call that the direct route from the property. So those are the 2 ways we've done it. We've provided, again, here's the copy of that. We did provide you with a copy of the easement agreement so you can see that we have those easement rights. In addition, I think there was some confusion. You wanted clarity because you had previously handled a site review. I believe it was a site review. It might have been a permit, but with the owner of the property with respect to this property, and you had looked at this issue. And so we provided a copy of that as well. And that prior decision also did allow both the easement route and the direct route. It didn't require eliminating the direct route, which was set forth in plans there. It actually allowed for both. And so we actually had spoken to Mr. Zioli in the police department on this to get an opinion back in November of 2020, on what was required here. And what he said at the time was, there's 2 options here. One is, just have a restriction that if you use that direct route, no left-hand turn there. Or the other option was get an easement through the easement route. Well, in fact, we've done both. And in fact, the decision from the zoning board and the special permit decision was, yeah, we have that easement route, and for the direct route, no left-hand turn out of the property. So both of those routes are available. And what's going to happen in practice here is we're going to encourage people on our website to use that easement route, especially when they're trying to access the property. I think that's going to allow for a better traffic flow. People, this is the type of industry where people do use, the websites to sort of access information, know what they're going to come to order, and they will get the message that that's really the best way to access the property. And so all we're really trying to do is sort of keep us in line with what was determined by the zoning board and the special permit, which was that we would have both the easement route and the direct route, but restricted no left-hand turn out of the property from that route. So those were the big issues that we had talked about at the last meeting. We're happy to answer any questions you have about that or any other questions you might have at this time. Yeah, Christian, I think you can leave the screen share right now.
Okay. There's Pat Brennan. Do you have any comments or anything?
You might be muted.
He is muted.
I can't see him.
Oh.
Hold on, let me get to
Oh, I
Pat. There, Pat.
No, they had satisfied my comments previously. The only thing that I would note is that they are seeking 2 waivers that you granted on the last permit for the property. And they are listed on their site plan, the 2 waivers they're seeking. One is for the plastic drain pipe and the other one is for the subsurface infiltration system.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. All right, let's go. All right, I see Charlie. Do you have any questions, Charlie?
I do. So I'm interested in the number of spaces in the parking analysis. So how many point of sale positions are we talking about, do we think?
I think it's 12. Christian, you'll correct me. Is it 12 or 13?
Oh, hold on, let me get him.
Okay.
Usually it's me who's causing the mute problems. It's 12.
Yeah, 12 point of sale.
Yeah.
And just so everybody's clear, we turn over customers anywhere from, we use 15 minutes as a guideline. The truth is it's closer to 8 to 10 minutes. So every space we have there in that lot will be turned over 4 or 5 times in an hour.
Oh. Okay. There's a question coming in, but
Mike, I have a question.
Go ahead.
That direct route, exit only?
It's both, but you cannot take a left-hand turn out of it. That's what we agreed to with the zoning board.
So it's gonna be an entrance there cutting across 2 lanes coming in where you can't go left. Correct?
Correct.
James, do you have any question?
hold on. Where is he?
He's muted.
Not anymore.
Charlie's muted too. Did you mute him?
No, he did it himself.
That was me. There's a lot of noise in the kitchen here. Apologize. I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
All right. Charlie, were you done with your questions? Can you unmute Charlie?
I did.
All right.
All right, sorry about that. Somebody came to my door, and the dogs don't like that too much. So we decided it was going to be 12 point of sale positions. So what do we think is the average employee on site, including, you know, bud tenders, security, fulfillment, management? What are we thinking the number is going to be there?
Again, we think
It's just because I don't think, looking at the calculations, I don't think the spaces add up, and I just want to make sure that they do in fact add up.
Sure. So again, we think on average, you'll see 8 to 10 employees, but when we did the calculation on the site plan, we used 14 as the number. So you need 7 employee spaces if you have 14 employees.
Okay. Okay. And let me just think. So you're saying that they're going to be shuttled from 929 Hingham Street. And how is that shuttle? Is that going to be a privately owned shuttle? Is one of the employees going to grab his car and go over and grab the employees? I mean, what's the plan for that?
It's a company shuttle, would be parked on the premises until you know, in the evenings, and it'll just go back and forth. During the day, it'll be parked over in the employee lot. The single employee can actually walk from there back to the facility. It's not very far, as I understand, less than a half a mile away.
Okay, and how are they walking from 929 Hingham Street to the location?
Well, again, I I don't know that there's sidewalks. Obviously, there's some care involved. If that becomes an issue, I'm sure we can accommodate that. If need be, the person can take an Uber from that location. I understand the need to be safe so that the person's not walking along a roadway, and I'm sure we can operationally accommodate that.
Okay, because I mean, that is a concern. I mean, there's no direct access from your proposed building to that 929 Hingham Street location.
Okay.
If I can jump into that, transport is going to be from our security vendor who helps secure that transport. That's something we do at a number of our other locations around the country.
Okay.
And it's a tactic that we're really comfortable with. We've mastered it. And so we make sure folks are on time, folks are secure, and nobody's going to be walking in any kind of public way or a risk on the street.
Okay.
I want to get back to that direct entrance if I can. Charlie, are you done? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to-
Yeah, no, because the first time I see somebody walking on Hingham Street to get there, an employee, I'm going to call you on it.
That's right.
Let's hope it doesn't.
Yep. Yeah,
There are no
we had those
sidewalks.
concerns during the ZBA hearing as well. That was something we had definitely factored into our operations, ensuring that doesn't happen.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I'll mute myself now. Thank you.
I'm still trying to go back into that direct entrance, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to beat a dead horse here. So you're gonna have people coming off the highway, coming on Hingham Street, stopping there, take a left across 2 lanes to get into that entrance off the direct route instead of going to the lights where it's controlled, correct?
Well, we're going to actually, through our website, encourage that they go to the lights, but we're hoping not to have to close that off. And what we did with the ZBA and our special permit is we agreed that this issue could be revisited by them in 6 months. Again, we believe that operationally we can deal with that, okay? We can encourage using the lighted intersection and the easement. And we want the opportunity to do that. It's really important with a new retail business that we try to leave this open and accessible from multiple routes. So that's really what we're hoping, is to sort of be consistent with what the ZBA did and just, let them look at this in 6 months. If there's a problem, we understand. We might have to address it at that time through further restriction, but that's what we're hoping to do for the first 6 months of operation.
If I may also add, with the lights being so close, the lights are going to be stopping traffic so that it is going to be, feasible for people to take a left-hand turn in there because of those lights. If there were no lights there and there was nothing to slow the traffic down going in the northerly direction, I think that would be a different story.
Yeah, but I've seen those. I just went by it today. I've seen those lights when they're stopped at Home Depot lights, let's say. Those back all the way up to where you're coming in. So while they're waiting for that lights during the mainstay of traffic, you're gonna have people sitting waiting to cut in. I just see it being a big issue getting in that entrance. I like the exit. I like it taking a right coming out of there. You're not cutting across traffic, stopping things. But I don't see that happening, cutting across Hingham Street to get in there, unless you're at the lights.
We understand, again, we're sort of, this in part was sort of relying on the advice of Mr. Zioli from the police department. But again, we hear you. This was, the ZBA expressed the same concern, and we wanted an opportunity to try to operate this way and then to try to address any further concerns in 6 months. That was the idea.
And if I could jump in too, we were in and still are in close communication with the police department. They know this is something that we're going to take super seriously as well. So if there are any issues early on, we're going to be checking in on a consistent basis before that 6 months anyway, just to make sure everything's running smoothly.
John, do you have any questions?
Yes, I'd like to go back and go visit the parking again. You said there's 14 employees, so that's 7 parking spaces.
Yep.
Your retail area requires 7 parking spaces, and you cut out when you were given the office area and such. So how many parking spaces do you require?
Yeah,
By your
again,
calculations?
sure. The retail was 1866.
So
you
that's
need
7
six-
spaces.
Or 6.3, you're right. You can round up. And the retail, the office space was 320 feet, which is 1 space for every 250 square feet. So that was 1.3. So that's how we reached 15. 7 plus 6.3 plus 1, or plus 6.2 plus 1.3.
Okay, just for your own information, you do meet the parking requirements, but the off-site parking does not count as to what you need.
Correct.
Okay.
That's to make it, we think that's operationally better for everyone, but you're
That's
right.
fine. I don't have a problem with it, but.
Yep.
And then you do realize that both the police and the fire department are under the impression initially from their report that you would be using exit only through the traffic lights through the back area. Lieutenant Thioli sent in a letter to us, which I thought you people had received, as well as the fire department.
I was on, so you're saying, you're talking about the easement route? They only
Correct.
want that as an exit, not
As
as an
the
entrance?
Well, no, it can be used as an entrance, obviously, but as an
Right.
exit. If you're gonna exit with a right turn only onto Hingham Street, what are you gonna do to try to convince people to use the easement going out the back?
It's going to be on the website. That's when we describe how we want people to access it, that's how we're going to describe it. We're not going to mention the other one. Okay. It's going to be available to them, but we're really going to encourage that easement access.
Right, but if they're in your site, they've gone into your business, come back out with their product, are you gonna have anything there to try to convince them to go out the easement, to exit through the easement?
Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Lucas, that's a great question, actually. This is something that obviously is a major priority to make sure we get it right. So we'll make sure that all the employees are trained on site to know that they can advise customers coming in and out of what the preferred route would be. We'll make sure that's an education policy for us.
No signage or anything there indicating they exit through the easement?
If that's the preferred methodology, I think we'd be happy to do that.
I think it would be better. I mean, I know you've got traffic studies and all that, but until you stand down there at a good length of time on Hingham Street and watch the traffic.
Yeah.
I don't care what the traffic study says, it's a cluster.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I appreciate that, Mr. Lucas.
there are other ways to present it, but I don't want to. I think it would be beneficial if we could convince people or encourage them to go out the back way.
Yeah.
We'd happy, if you want to make a condition that we have some signage on the property that encourages using that other the easement access route, we're happy to have that on site.
Mr. Chairman, I know Deputy Chief Heaney is on the call. I don't know if he wants to comment any further.
Yep,
Let me find them.
yep, I did see him this.
While we're waiting, if you don't mind, Mr. Lucas, one of our heads of security is on the line too, Jamal, who's been actually working closely with the police department. If I could just ping him real quick to chime in, just to shed some light on his conversation as well.
Is that Matthew?
No, Abe Jamal?
Oh, Abe Jamal, okay. Let me find them. Oh, there he is.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lucas, just to put your mind at ease, we actually committed early on in this that we were going to allocate a security officer at that turn to make sure that people only make the right turn. Again, like my colleague said, we factored in just about every scenario to make sure that we're the we're the more I'm sorry, the better neighbor in this. Excuse my voice, I'm recovering from a small procedure. But like I said, we did factor in, and there would be personnel out there to semi-direct traffic and making sure people are making that right turn only.
That's fine. I have no problem with that at all. I think it's a good idea. I would just like to see some encouragement via signage and or your people, your salespeople, trying to direct people out through that easement.
I think that's a great idea.
Yep, consider it done.
Where'd he go?
He's there.
Deputy Chief, do you have any comments?
I would hope they would do anything to encourage people to use the traffic lights. We've had some truly bad accidents up there, and anybody trying to take a left out of that property is going to going to get seriously hurt and it's not going to look good for their business. So anything they can do to direct them, signage. I would really like to see them have that only exit to the right and allow no even entry so people are tempted to cross those 2 lanes of traffic. I'd rather them come into the set of lights.
Agree.
Understood. As I said, we'd like to try it this way, but we understand, we agreed with the ZBA that they'd look at it in 6 months and that they retain control to further restrict it if that's what is needed to be done.
Understood. I don't think it's going to take 6 months to revisit this.
I understand.
All right, we have the chairman of the ZBA, Rob Rosa. Do you have any comments?
I mean, other than the fact that I think we said that all the required parking is still on site. Is that correct?
We have sufficient required parking on site. We've just added additional employee parking off site.
Okay. So all required parking per the zoning bylaw is housed on site.
23 spaces on site, correct.
Perfect. Okay, that's number one. And again, number two, I'm just going back to everything that I said back at the ZBA meeting. That entrance on Hingham Street is going to be a nightmare. Everybody knows it. You're hearing it from every single department so far. I'm looking at I am looking at the conditions. And again, after 6 months, but if Deputy Heaney, he knows better than we all do. So if it's going to take less than 6 months, then it is what it is. But either way,
you come to us and let us know, and we understand. We're looking for an opportunity to make it work, but we understand the sentiment. I will go to bed tonight hearing that in my head over and over again. I think everybody's made it abundantly clear.
we're giving you a chance. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
that's what it seems like.
To your point, Chairman Rosa, real quick to interject, and Deputy Heaney and Mr. Lucas, I think this conversation is super helpful for us too, because it allows us to be proactive with our staff and making sure the education and those talking points are there from the very beginning, not something we have to learn from.
I'm good. I appreciate it, Chairman Corbett. Thank you for recognizing. Appreciate that.
No problem. You're welcome. Deputy Chief Heaney, the last Form K we received from you, you had your, have all your other issues been addressed with the master box, knockbox, fire alarm?
I have not heard anything back from them about the master box, the fire alarm, or the Knox box, but that's usually when the building's up and it's sided. And I would, as long as they're part of my condition, I won't sign off on the occupancy if on the occupancy permit. So they can fight me on it, but it's a minor expense and it's a safety issue for them. Their insurance company will probably be happy that they have, and they'll be happy that we have a Knox box with access to our building or their building, so we don't have to break any doors down. And they have a direct line of communication by pulling the master box to the fire department. So I would think they'd be happy about that.
Okay. And also, has the swept path analysis been done? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yep, and the final test of the swept path analysis is going to be me driving the ladder truck, which I don't drive that often, so I hope it works.
Hey, thank you. And just so everybody knows too, we do have a copy of the easement that has been registered and everything and filed with the state for the access. One of the last things too, the Form K from the last one we received from the police department, you know, they made a comment. They're happy to see that they are using the lights on Commerce Road and Hingham Street as an entry and exit point. And on the northern portion of the lot onto Hingham Street, there, it is my recommendation that it is the exit right turn only. That was the last letter we received for him, so everybody knows. All right, we do have some questions here.
I just, if George wants to unmute, he can ask his question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, my question is, when these people take a right turn only and they want to go left, where's their turnaround point? Are they going to start turning around in Home Depot? Are they going to start turning around in the park and ride and make traffic even worse during the, by the expressway?
Well, as you
I
can,
understand they have to take a right only, but what if they want to go left? How are they going to turn around? There's really no place for them to turn around.
they have
Except-
an agreement with the property behind them, and there's going to be a driveway so they can access the light at Hingham Street.
Because I would highly recommend, like they said earlier, putting signs out. If you want to take a left, go out the back way. Because you're going to screw up Home Depot in that park and ride, and that traffic's bad enough.
Understood.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, George.
Okay, there is another one.
Do we get George's name and address fully? For the
Yes.
record? Yes,
I do have it from a previous, but he should address it on this one.
okay.
Let me find him. All right. I'm not sure where he went.
Can you,
Yep, I see him.
you see him?
Yep.
Okay. All right, then we have.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm at 40 South Douglas, but I drive Union Street or Hingham Street 5-6 times a day through work.
okay,
That's my concern on the traffic. It is heavy.
it is. All right, to an, Christian, yep, yes, you saw it, thank you.
All good.
All right. We do have another hand raised there,
Yeah.
Chrissy, if you can
Yeah.
find them.
Yep. KW. Oh, I think it's, oh, it's MKW. I see it over there, but I don't see it on my screen. Okay. Do you see it on there?
My screen's the top left corner,
Yeah,
Christine.
my screen's the top left corner,
Right above Mike.
I'll see. I'm not seeing it. Oh, gotcha.
He has two hands up.
I'm like, hi.
Sorry about that.
No problem. It's Mike Westward, 21 Commerce Road. I heard everybody speaking, and I guess I have the same concerns. When going through the Gillian Associates traffic study review, it says that the proponent did not analyze the signalized intersection of Hingham Street at Commerce Road, nor the unsignalized intersection at Hingham Street in the site driveway. So I guess my concern is, because I'm on Commerce Road, you now have people taking a left across a double yellow line into a place which would then back up traffic on the other lane, which will cause people not to be able to go down Commerce Road. Don't we need, now that everybody is not only taking a left across two lines into the driveway and exiting out at that light, why was that not studied, I guess? I'm all for the use and everything else, but I just think this traffic's gonna block Commerce Road. Like, how do we not study that light at Hingham and Commerce if we're now using that as what we hope to be the main point of egress or entrance, and then they didn't study the entrance into the site? Wouldn't that be what you would want studied? I mean, I guess.
Can we have Matt Scully as our traffic engineer? Maybe you can allow him to answer that.
Sure, yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, my name for the record, Matthew Skelly. I'm a transportation engineer at Fuss and O'Neill office located in Quincy. Excuse me. So I think there's a little bit of confusion there potentially. I have, we submitted our original traffic review letter and then a response to the comments letter. So I'm not 100% sure what the piece is that you're reading, but we definitely did review those two intersections. We looked at it at the basis of how many trips are going to be added to those intersections. And as everybody has noted, this is a busy street. The trips that this dispensary are going to be adding to the site intersection and the intersection at Commerce, they're dropping the bucket compared to how much traffic is moving through there on a regular basis. So we use the standard Mass DOT guidelines for developing a traffic study, and the number of we reviewed the number of trips there, and we're definitely comfortable that those operations are not going to have any significant change as a result of the trips from the dispensary.
I was just reading the letter from Gilly on a January 26, 2021. So I guess, okay. In their review, they didn't review it, it looks like then. If you submitted it to them, I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's what their letter
Go
said.
ahead, Matt. Oh, can we unmute Matt?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I forgot about the rule. I'm so used to just clicking mute as soon as I'm done talking. But yeah, I guess the critical thing, we did respond to their comments. They were all, they had no additional comments after our response. So our understanding was that we completely, addressed all of their concerns with our response letter. So I think that may be what's coming in. They definitely did review our initial letter, and I think we were able to address all their concerns there. So hopefully that having the independent reviewer, that really helps to give everybody a peace of mind on that.
Is that information available?
Sure, it was publicly, we provided our response, submitted it to the town, so it's publicly available.
The traffic light study for Hingham and Commerce?
Yeah,
I didn't see it anywhere. You sure?
sure.
Okay.
It was submitted to the town with our submissions.
Okay, and then I just had one other question, just about the parking in general. So when you went over the parking, the building's 5,000 square feet, but the analysis leaves out 2,800 square feet of the building.
Sure, because the bylaw requires you to consider retail space, not the entire floor space.
Okay.
Retail.
So that's empty. All right. That's it. I mean, again, I don't care about the use. I just think the traffic's going to be a problem getting into Commerce Road. That's my concern.
All right. I'm just gonna read it
Hold on,
again.
Here comes Charlie.
All
All
right.
right, so I'm still a little bit confused. Were the lights at Commerce and Hingham Street studied or not?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So we did conduct a study of those intersections. Again, I'm not 100% sure what the exact wording that was referenced there was about where saying that we hadn't, but I mean I know that the critical line that we had quoted in our response letter from that traffic review is, and this is from the peer reviewer, said, I believe the signals at Commerce Road can adapt to the new volume fluctuation and the internal connection will, with the contiguous neighbor, will preclude all left turn movements at the Hingham Street Site Drive intersection. Under these conditions, the project should operate satisfactory. So that was what we took that exact quote to show that to mean that the the peer reviewer felt that the traffic operations as we analyzed were satisfactory at Commerce Road.
Okay, but just to be clear, they weren't particularly studied. He just believes that they will work.
I guess that might be keying in on the capacity analysis portion of it. I'm again, yeah, I'm not 100% sure why I would not characterize it to say that we didn't analyze those intersections. I mean, those were the subject of our review. If it's specific to the, did we do like the level of service calculation on that? No, based on the number of trips that are going to be generated, that was not justified at those intersections.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Good, John.
So I got one follow-up. His review says that it's acceptable with no left turn, though. You're doing a left turn.
No,
That was the left turn out of the site drive.
out of the site.
The signals of Commerce Road adapted new fluctuation internal connection conditions will preclude the left turn movements at Higgins Street Site Drive intersection. Under these conditions, it should be approved, correct?
Left turn out of the place. That's what he's saying. We're not doing left turn exiting.
Exactly.
Not adapt to new fluctuations internal connection will preclude all left turn movements at the Hingham Site Drive intersection. I'm not a traffic guy. I don't know. It just seems it says will preclude all left turn movements.
Because all left turn movements will be through Commerce Road signalized intersection.
Correct.
Will you want to be left turning into the site?
No, it's through the easement access point.
So they're not taking, if they're not taking a left turn, then I should be quiet. So they're not taking a left turn into the site across double yellow lines.
In the direct route, there is that option, but
Okay, so
and you can go left at the lights. What you can't do is turn left coming out of the property.
No, I got that. But okay, so all right. I thought he was saying I didn't study it with the left in, but okay, I could be wrong. I'm just worried about the traffic. If you guys want to go through the lights, I think it's a lot easier, but the left-hand turn is, I don't know.
Yeah.
We understand.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, John.
can I propose that we put a condition in this that within 6 months, if not shorter than that, that the planning board and the zoning board get together and revise or review this and make whatever changes necessary at that time after looking at it? Maybe consult with the fire department at the same time and the police department as well.
I'd second that motion.
Yeah, would it be possible to just have that be the same language that was used by the zoning board? 6-month review, review 6 months after operations commence?
We could do it 6 months. We may find we need to do it earlier, like one of you suggested it. I'm not sure who, but
Sure.
I don't think anyone would have an objection to doing it earlier. If between Deputy Chief Heaney and the police department find that they have some problems up there, we'll review it earlier and if necessary, make changes.
Understood.
How was it worded in the zoning decision?
You want me to read it?
Do you have it right in front of you, Rob?
Based on an agreement with the applicant, there will not be any present limitation on access and egress from the unsignalized entrance/exit north at Hingham Street, other than a right-hand turn only requirement for exiting traffic controlled by signage. The applicant and the board agree that there shall be a review of the traffic conditions associated with the unsignalized entrance/exit north at Hingham Street for the imposition of a condition further restricting access and egress to and from the site at a meeting to be conducted 6 months from the date of the opening. The applicant also agrees to the imposition of restrictions or limitations should the board, in its discretion, conclude such restrictions or limitations are warranted after the review, period. That was condition number 13.
Yep, found it.
Everybody knows how I feel about it. I came right out in the beginning and I didn't want them using it at all.
We understand. We appreciate the opportunity to abide by the same condition that we agreed to with the zoning board.
Can I just add another monkey into the wrench? I mean, it's not that we are trying to stifle this project. I mean, we need to do our due diligence. Two items down the agenda for tonight's meeting is another project that's going to be right up the road a piece. It's going to add a significant amount of more traffic. And if we just keep adding these projects, which I'm all in favor of, I want projects in town, I want the business, but we also, like I say, have to do our due diligence, because this next project, you know, could add a significant amount and will add a significant amount. The project after that is going to add a significant amount. So we can't just keep adding without having some sort of, you know, flow or some sort of plan to address it. I mean, you don't want that, you know, the reputation of having all that traffic caused because of you guys or whatever.
Yeah,
It's going to put a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Again, you've made it clear. We understand at this point, we need to have this signage. We need to encourage the use of that signal, that easement access, that signalized intersection. That's our best opportunity to not have to do anything further with the direct access route. We understand that, and we are certainly willing to have a review of that after we've had an opportunity. And if it requires further restrictions, so be it. We understand that and agreed to that with the zoning board.
All right, John, do you want to stick with the zoning board recommendation?
I can stick with that. Maybe we could just add to it that could be done sooner if warranted. If that's all right with Mr. Rosa.
Sooner if warranted, subject to recommendations by police and fire. And if there's one put it this way, if there's one accident, there's your sooner. And I wasn't going to say this, but one of your construction guys coming out of that exit, I almost rammed him in the rear. And you can't see the lights from that entrance. That's the problem. I have to go, I'm going speed limit down up Hingham Street, and one of your guys kind of just pulled out and didn't see my gigantic white van because he couldn't see the lights and didn't really know what was going on. So that was taking the allowed right-hand turn out of it. Granted, it's dirt. There's not a lot of, you know, he probably didn't have a lot of traction or something like that, but building's not even up and there was almost an accident. So it's a very, very touchy situation. I think everybody, both boards so far, are willing to give it a go, because you're more than happy to give it a go, and you're more than happy to see it our way, assuming something happens. So again, I'm not speaking for the zoning board. I'm just looking at our condition, knowing how we felt when we wrote the condition. We said go for it. Because in the beginning, we can't bar you from using that access. It's your frontage. We can't bar you from accessing your property through your frontage. That would constitute almost an eminent domain taking. So we can't do that. But only time will tell. That's really what it comes down to. Only time will tell. My board was willing to give it a go. So
Chairman Rosa, real quick, I appreciate that. And Charlie, I appreciate your comments too. I think one thing is for sure, as a result of this process, is we need to be hypersensitive of this issue, no question. And rest assured we are, as a result of these conversations. It's going to be the first thing we do when we talk to our staff on site. We're going to talk about signage and educating consumers as they come in, so that we don't get to that point. But ultimately, to Phil's point earlier, like, we want to make sure we're in constant communication with fire and police. I think that's a great suggestion, Chairman Rosa. And if there does need to be a conversation before that 6 months, obviously we'll work with you very closely on making that happen. But appreciate all the feedback. I mean, it is a hypersensitive issue for us, and we're going to take it with the utmost seriousness.
They're more than willing to make it work. That's what it seems. That's the way that I look at it.
I just see the car, I see more traffic than accidents, just waiting to get into the place from that direct access instead of the light. That's my concern. And then everything else is just gonna fall into place with it. But I just see it blocked up, people flying off the highway, coming around to the right, and bam, it's stopped. Because someone's trying to take a left, people are trying to come around, those lights are active. It's gonna be a problem, but I'm not gonna keep burning it out. Well, like you said, you got the signal. We'll see how it goes.
All right, so what is, how does the board feel?
I'll make a motion that be added to our conditions from the zoning board with the stipulation that if need be done earlier, then it be done earlier.
And I will second that motion wholeheartedly.
Okay, we have a first and a second to review the entrance off of Hingham Street. 6 months or sooner per whatever happens between police and fire with their input, since they would be the ones responding. Yeah, we'll go through it again. John,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Michael, I vote yes. Right, so I wish you guys good luck.
Thank you.
Mike,
Jim.
we gotta put in those waivers.
Oh, that's right, somewhere in here.
I got them here if you want, Mike.
All right, if you got them in front of you,
Condition be the waiver from R&I rules, section 3C2.E.1 for the use of high-density polyethylene pipe.
so can we get a motion on that?
Make that a motion.
Second.
And then we have a first and a second. We'll go through it again. John,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Charlie. Charlie is saying yes. His thumbs up on that. All right,
Yes, thank you.
The second one, Mike, I'll make a motion that we have a waiver from the R&I rules, section 3.C.2.F.1 for the use of subsurface infiltration system.
we have a first on that. Can we get a second?
Second.
Sorry, Randy.
It's all right.
All right, we have, who seconded that?
Randy.
All right, Randy, okay. We have a first and a second. We'll go through it again. John,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
and Michael. I vote yes. All right, those were the only two conditions they were looking for, correct? Everything else has been addressed, the fence, and everything else has been put on plans.
We should put in our regular conditions as well, Mike.
Yes, our regular conditions will
I
be
know they're making their own,
inserted.
and how they bought dresses for their senior prom last year, and it was
All right. Well, I thank you, gentlemen. Chrissy, how long will it, when can you get that to him, Chrissy? When will it be ready?
By the end of next week.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
You.
Mike, did we vote to okay everything?
Uh,
To okay or vote to okay their application? I don't think we did.
do we have to vote to okay their application since they went through, we were just basically doing the site and design. They got approval from zoning.
I still think we need site plan approval.
We do need a site plan approval, Mike.
All right. I'm saying, we have a motion on the site plan that we've reviewed a few times.
Just a few. I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Charlie,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Yes.
Michael, I vote yes. All right, I was getting confused since we already approved the building. I figured that'd be under the site plan too.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. All right, next on the agenda is we have the site and design review for Gasper Investments that for 0 Dyer Street, map 34, lots 83, 84, 87, 88, 89, and 90. And before we get started, I'll just remind the audience and everybody, the audience, participants, and general public should be aware that if you would like to comment, please turn on your video and ask to be unmuted. You can do this by using the hand raise feature or make a request through the chat function. Any persons calling on their phone can hit *9 to raise their hand and you will be unmuted. All right. Who wants to lead it off for Gasper Investments?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Mark Bobrowski. My office is in Concord, Massachusetts. I'm counsel for the applicant, Gasper Investments. With me tonight is Brad McKenzie from McKenzie Engineering Group and Tom Hastings. I'm going to turn it over to Brad to give you an update on matters since it's been quite a while since this was before the board.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Would you like me to screen share?
Yes. That way everyone can get up to speed again. Thank you.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Great, okay. We last met with the board on February 23rd, and I'd like to just give a brief summary of what changes have occurred have been made to the design plans since we last met, and what some of the correspondence has been with various town departments and boards. On March 15th, we submitted a response letter to Amory Engineering's November 24th review letter, and submitted it at the time a revised plan set and drainage report. Just to summarize some of the changes that were made to the plans, the roadway was widened from 20 to 24 feet as recommended by DPW and the fire department in correspondence to the board. We did provide a swept path analysis that demonstrated that the aerial ladder truck was capable of maneuvering or turning around at the termination of Dyer Street. That was reviewed in a meeting with the fire department, Zoom meeting that we had with Deputy Chief Heaney and Chief Duffy on March 3rd. Excuse me, easements were added to the turnaround area here to accommodate the turning movement for the ladder truck. There was some minor adjustments made to parking spaces and buffer areas to comply with the parking requirements in section 415-55 of the zoning bylaw. There were some minor edits made to the construction details and plans relating to the type of pipe, typical roadway section, gravel specifications, striping details, things of that nature. The water main size was increased from 6-inch to 8-inch as well. And just to refresh everyone's memory, the water main is proposed to be extended from the intersection of South Douglas Street to the proposed termination of Dyer Street. And that would involve replacing an old 3-inch water main that currently provides service to the 2 homes on Dyer Street. As you mentioned, we are in the process of addressing Amory's second review letter dated March 23rd. We anticipate resubmitting within the next week or so to address those comments, as well as other outstanding comments. We did meet with the Sewer Commission on March 25th, and most recently last week on April 27th, have a preliminary approval from them, as discussed last week, awaiting an approval letter that they indicated would be, we should be receiving by today. As we mentioned, the fire department, a productive Zoom meeting, and we did receive a letter from them, Deputy Chief Haney, dated March 19th, that indicates that their concerns have been addressed. Our staff had a meeting with Joe LaPointe of the Joint Waterworks Board back in November to discuss the configuration, connection details, fees associated with providing fire and domestic water service to the project. There was a hydrant flow test that was conducted a few months ago, and favorable results greater than 60 PSI static pressures. And in a letter dated March 9th from the Joint Waterworks, they indicated that the site, that the fire service would not be an issue for the site, given the results of the hydrant flow test, and that we would need to schedule a meeting with the Joint Waterworks Board to discuss a domestic connection approval. And we've had, in the past month and a half, we've had several emails and phone calls into the waterworks, and have yet to be placed on a meeting agenda. We've been in front of conservation a few times. The last time we appeared before conservation was on March 9th. We are in the process of addressing peer reviews from Beta relating to Wetlands Protection Act and local wetland bylaw compliance, as well as Henry Nova on a stormwater management review. Henry is reviewing the project with respect to compliance with the DEP stormwater management standards. And his review we received a couple of weeks ago on April 12th. And part of the work that we're doing in addressing his review is preparing an offsite hydrologic analysis to verify that there are no downstream flooding issues that will be created by implementing the project. The project involves a increase in volume, stormwater volume. We're mitigating the peak rates of runoff, but there is an increase in volume downstream. So we're analyzing culverts on South Douglas Street, as well as culverts at Union Street to demonstrate that there'll be no adverse impacts. I guess with that, we'll turn it back over to Attorney Bobrowski. And I'm available to answer any questions the board may have at the appropriate time.
As am I, Mr. Chairman. I'm assuming that you would want your peer reviewing engineer to provide some comment with regard to his March 23rd letter. So I'll defer to that for the moment.
Okay. Pat?
Yeah, thank you, Pat Brennan with Amory Engineers. As Brad mentioned, I submitted a follow-up letter dated March 23rd with a number of still outstanding issues. I'm not sure how productive it would be to go through all of those issues at this point in time. I think it might be more time efficient if we wait for Brad's next revised plans so that we can hopefully knock off some of these comments and get them dwindled down. But it's up to the board. If you want me to go through them, I'll go through them, but it's probably take a little bit.
I'm just looking at your last letter here. If you just want to hit on the couple major points.
Okay. Well, the first comment was, it's in relation to the work that they're proposing on the existing portion of Dyer Street. They're widening it to 24 feet travelway with 12-inch Cape Cod berms on each side. I'm not sure how this plays out with subdivision control and whether they need to upgrade that board to the subdivision standards. They are doing it to an extent, but the narrowest road in your subdivision standards is 26 feet. And so I was suggesting that the board seek advice from town council or Attorney Galvin to see what his opinion was on that, if they needed to bring it up to the subdivision standards, or if they did, would they be seeking waivers for those areas where they don't comply? So that's kind of an unanswered question that I think Attorney Galvin needs to chime in on. The volume waiver that Mr. McKenzie mentioned it can be problematic, but if they're doing their offsite analysis and their offsite analysis shows that the increase in volume will not adversely impact downstream properties, then I think that would be okay, but we need to see that analysis and review it. And as Brad mentioned, Henry Nova is looking at the drainage more closely on this one than we are, because they're doing concurrent review with Concom. So I really haven't gotten into the drainage that much, other than where they wouldn't comply with your rules and regulations. So that, similar to the last project, there are a couple waivers that they would need for the drainage, minimum cover over pipes, and things like that. But, those could potentially be addressed with the revised plans. My ninth comment was about we had some concerns about the parking. Some of the parking spaces they were showing as compact, but they weren't even large enough for your typical compact spaces. They only were about 8.25 feet in width, and your compact spaces are 9 by 18. And then the zoning bylaw also requires that all parking areas, loading areas, and areas used for access, egress, or on-site circulation shall be set back a minimum 10 feet from any property line. And with the March 15th plans, they did not have that 10-foot setback provided on the lots. So I've talked with Brad about it since then, and I know that's something that they're working on right now to address that issue. And then with my March 23rd letter, I had some additional concerns, and one was that I'd like to see a swale provided along the west side of the duplex lots to keep runoff on site and not allow it to shed onto 5 and 8 Dyer Street, which are the adjacent lots. I was suggesting that they there's a guardrail across a portion of the end of the road, and I was suggesting that they extend it all the way across, because there's a head wall there, or a retaining wall there, and a head wall, and just want to make sure cars don't drive off the end of that wall there. I think those are the main things right now. Henry Nova, like I said, he's reviewing it. I do have a copy of his April 12th letter. So I know that Mr. McKenzie is working to address those concerns, which I think will take care of a number of my concerns as well.
All right, thank you, Pat.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I would ask that you reach out to Attorney Galvin. He and I know each other well, and I'd like to be able to communicate with him about some of the first points that Mr. Brennan made. It's just easier if you let him know I'm going to give him a call.
All right, I can do that. I know he has made a couple comments. Where they are, I don't know.
I got them here, Mike.
You have them printed out?
Yeah. I can read it if you'd like.
Hold on, I think I find it.
Maybe while you're looking for them, you can have Deputy Haney speak regarding,
If you have them, John, read it, because I
Okay.
can't find it.
the first, excuse me, the first part, it says, there is no subdivision. However, the planning board has the right to require improvements to the width, grade, and construction of the road to create the safe and adequate access. And then it goes on to say, if the fire chief will accept a hammerhead, then I would recommend it. But that's up to the planning board and from recommendations from the fire department. That's why I think maybe Deputy Chief Heaney could speak.
Yes. Is the deputy chief still on?
Yep, I'm here. So first of all, I think I'm kind of being misrepresented on the swept path analysis. The swept path analysis to us is basically more for access into a parking lot. And so we can position our ladder truck appropriately. And that's why we give basically the measurements of the ladder truck so they can conduct their analysis. I never have precluded the fact that I was preferred, and I stated in a letter today that my preference was basically giving, I'm not a road construction expert, so I was, saying preferred for us would be the cul-de-sac, and that would be into Mr. Taylor's purview and the zoning board and the planning board. I look at the fire code, I don't design roads, so that's why I put that as preferred. That was in no way waiving the fact that I wanted a cul-de-sac. Yes, we did discuss the swept path analysis. Yes, the swept path analysis works to get that fire truck positioned to where it is, but it doesn't preclude the fact that it's a private road. It goes greater than 150 feet in with no way for a ladder truck, staffed by one person to safely back that up. So that's why I've already spoken to the fire chief, and we're going to push for a cul-de-sac.
Thank you.
While we're on this subject, I just wanted to go back, have you clarify something. So have you been approved by the water department for connection?
We've been approved for a connection for fire protection. We have, when we received that letter on March 9th, I believe it was, it indicated that we had to come before the board to discuss domestic connection. And we've been trying to get on that meeting agenda since that time.
Okay, you broke up. So you have no approval for the domestic connection, is that correct?
As of right now, we do not.
Okay, were you aware that the Abington Rockland Joint Waterworks sent out a letter on the 15th of this month stating that they will be suspending all new connections?
I was not aware of that until I heard about it at the sewer commission meeting last Thursday night.
Okay.
So they never indicated to us in all of our discussions with them going back to November that there would be an issue with a domestic water connection.
Well, excuse my pun here, but I think it's a fluid situation, and it is, I mean, my understanding that they will not be allowing any more connections. So I'm wondering how that moves the project forward.
As I said, I was not aware of an issue. In fact, I don't believe the sewer commission even cited the specifics, the date of that letter when I was in front of them last Thursday night. So this is news to me.
Okay,
We were never notified. And again, I find it, I guess we've been trying, we may be one of several projects that's been trying to get on an agenda with them, but we've been trying for months to talk to them about this, a connection. And so a formal, I wasn't aware that a formal decision or moratorium has been established until just now.
alrighty then.
Yeah, they are suspending all new water connections until they have a study done. It'll take approximately 3 to 6 months to complete.
Did you tell her about this?
All right, well, is that all water connections or just domestic? Because we have an approval for fire right now, according to the letter we received in March.
It says all new water connections. Doesn't specify other than that.
Mike, I talked to Joe LaPointe the other day, and he said if they have received permission to do it, they were going to be allowed to. If they have not received permission, then it would fall under that moratorium.
Right, that was what I was just gonna add. If it has not been previously approved, that's why I asked and prefaced the question when, had they been previously approved?
The March 9 letter says, and does the board have a copy of the March 9 letter?
March 9th?
From the Joint Waterworks, yes.
Yes,
Okay, so
I have one.
the first sentence says, there does not appear to be any conflict with our water supply for fire protection. The second paragraph states, the policy of the Abington-Rockland Joint Waterworks pertaining to any development requiring a water supply requires, and it goes on to say, it's kind of disjointed, but the process will require that the proponent meet with the Abington-Rockland Joint Waterworks Commissioners to establish an acceptable plan of action to obtain approval for water availability. As I said, this is March 9th, and we've been trying since March 9th to get on an agenda to discuss it. So what I'm hearing now is that on April 15th, they issued a letter with a moratorium. So
I think you're gonna have to follow it up with them to see where you stand. It sounds like you're okay for fire connection, but not necessarily domestic.
Well, I mean, the fallback is to drill wells. I don't think anybody wants to see that.
Well, I think you're gonna have to talk to the water department and find out what they're doing and what kind of time frame they're looking at.
I guess so. We've been trying. We've been trying for a month and a half.
Because they say approximately 3 to 6 months to complete their study, to give them better numbers to find out where they're standing for whatever improvements we have to make.
Okay.
Just so you're aware. Yeah.
Any other questions pertaining to design or zoning
Chairman?
issues?
John, I see you now.
A couple of questions. One, I think from the deputy chief's comments and the highway department's letter and the fire department's letter and also the planning board, I would really like to see some consideration for a cul-de-sac design to put in there. Going by what Attorney Galvin's comments are, that if the board feels strong enough that we can require that. I guess another part of my question is, somewhere just recently I saw a letter that you did not think this street would ever become a public road. Is that still your thought process?
I'm not sure I wrote that.
I did, Mr. Chairman. And after talking with the client, that was what I was led to believe. So yes, we're sticking with that.
All right, I guess then my next question is, I know the highway department has, as a courtesy, been plowing that street in the winter, which you've only got, I think it's 2 houses on it. As of a conversation with the highway department today, once this, if this goes in the way it's laid out, they will no longer plow any part of Dyer Street. So that obviously the street's got to be widened to 24 feet inside berm. But is it going to be built with conditions that further down the road it will become public? Or what is going to protect the houses that are still on that street that now will not be plowed or maintained, this road maintained in any way?
Well, we can discuss whether or not an article could be introduced to town meeting to assume maintenance and plowing responsibilities of a private road. That's a decision for town meeting to make.
They will not, according to the highway department, if it's a private road, they will not touch it. It has to meet all state and town requirements when it's built. Now, I know you've got to do a fair amount of work on that road now from South Douglas on up. Now would probably be the time to take into consideration if at some point it may become a public road and or how these houses, 2 or more, whatever's there now, are going to be handled as far as plowing and such.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we can investigate the possibility of an association of some sort to assume maintenance and liability, but that I'll talk about that with the client.
Okay. Because if you're making road improvements and it's a private way now, and where are you going to put the snow?
So for Dyer Street or the site?
I guess for Dyer Street.
Well, I think there's plenty of frontage. You know, customarily the snow would be plowed along. There's no sidewalks proposed, so there's a lot of room. It's a 50-foot wide layout and only 24 feet of pavement. And I would anticipate that in a very large storm event that the condo association, in terms of on-site, would retain a contractor to remove the snow for the parking areas, the driveways.
Where is it? Randy, do you have any questions?
No, I'll hold up for a minute. Actually, yeah, let me ask you this. The road going in, what does it say that it's supposed to be going into a development? It's supposed to be 26 or is it 24?
The narrowest road in your subdivision rules and regulations is 26 travel way. This is proposed at 24-foot wide travel way with 12-inch Cape Cod berm. So the overall width of the pavement would be 26 feet.
Just point out that was consistent with the letter of Deputy Fire Chief Heaney from March 19th.
As well as DPW.
Because I have something to DPW, 24 feet.
One of the issues here, Mr. Chairman, that I hope to discuss with Attorney Galvin is the I don't want to say disconnect, but there's definitely a weak link between the zoning process we're going through and the subdivision regulations that are referred to in the board's rules and regulations in section 1, I mean. So when you have a link to a subdivision package, you know, it makes sense if that's new construction. If I've got a bare piece of land and I can design it any way I want, it's easy to put in a cul-de-sac. But this is an existing paper street with buildings on it, and it's an 18-foot travel width at the beginning, and it's going to end in a dead end. So if you put a cul-de-sac on that, it's out of the street layout at that point and on private property. Under the derelict fee statute, if you own both sides of the road, you own the road. If you own one side of the road, you own to the middle of the road. But anybody with frontage on that road have rights to that road. And so they'll be, if there's a cul-de-sac, they'll be coming onto private property to turn their car around. So I want to talk to Attorney Galvin about that and just explore with him how these two documents can work together so that we can solve this problem. That's all.
Excuse me, I would hope you would add the fire department into that discussion. I know we're not attorneys, but we're the people that are gonna respond to that in the middle of the night and would like some input onto that. So please include us in that loop.
Will do.
Chrissy, can you make a note of that so we can send an email out to Attorney Galvin
Yes.
first thing in the morning?
Thank you.
Copy everybody on it, Deputy Chief. And
Thank you.
all right. James, did I get to you? Did you have any questions while we're here?
No, I did not at this time. Thank you.
Charlie, any more questions?
No, I mean, I think we just need to get it cleared up. You know, I think there's some room to move, but you know, we have to really look at this in the best interest of the town, the townspeople and the neighbors there, as well as the developer. I mean, I understand that.
All right, because we still have a bunch of Form Ks, you know what I mean? Hold off. Still have everybody's letters concerning Dyer Street from before, and we did receive the other one. I don't know, today or yesterday, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Mr. Chairman, do you have a copy of a letter from the Joint Waterworks? You cited an April 15th letter. I assume that the board was copied about the moratorium. As I said, we've been requesting correspondence with them for some time and meetings for some time. Could you please forward that letter to us?
I just got an email. The planning board got an email. So Chrissy, can you forward that?
Will do.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
All right. I do see a couple of hands raised.
I'm gonna do George first.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay, George.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, hi, I'm George Grass, 40 South Douglas. I'm the guy who's losing 6 feet of my yard for the street to be widened. Now, the attorney here says that anybody has the right to the frontage of that property. Would that be my frontage? Because I've been living here for 20 years. I'm the guy that's on Dyer Street. I'm gonna lose 6 feet of my property to widen the street. Their attorney says that I have the right to, do I have the right to purchase that land? Because I'm 13 feet, I believe, off the street where my property line starts.
I I can answer that question.
Okay.
I thought we discussed this at the last meeting a few months ago, and that you're not losing any of your property. With the right of way is actually 50 feet wide. And
Well,
right now,
I've been maintaining that property for 20 years. It's kind of, it is kind of mine because I've been maintaining it for 20 years. You know, I cut the grass, I pull the weeds, I rake the leaves. So yeah, I guess technically it's not mine, but do I have the opportunity to purchase that? Because I'll purchase it if I have to.
There really
You know,
isn't
they say
anybody, there really isn't
between the
anybody. to
street and my
purchase it
property.
from.
What's that?
well, I defer to Attorney Bobrowski, but under the derelict fee, is there already an ownership interest to the center line of the right of way?
Yes.
Well, my
and-
concern is I don't want people parking on that side lot once they widen Dyer Street, because I know you're not gonna have enough parking for what you want to build there. Has any of the planning board walked down to this property? What are they gonna do about that big rock formation that's in Dyer Street? I hope the town does not allow this guy to blast. And if they do allow him to blast, I hope they have insurance to cover every single one of us if our foundation's cracked. I've got a neighbor who's got an in-ground pool. I've got a neighbor that's, I think she's got her hand up. She's literally 40 feet from this rock formation. If you allow them to blast, there better be one hell of an insurance policy to cover all of us. There's a lot of houses that are going to be surprised when blasting happens. You know, I understand they want to build there, but I think what they're building there is just overwhelming. It doesn't match the neighborhood. Build a house, build 2 houses, 16 condos. You're only doing the 16 condos to make money and walk away. 16 condos doesn't fit this neighborhood. Build houses. But the first thing you've got to address, and nobody's addressed it yet, is that 6 to 8 foot rock formation that's about 30 feet round and it's solid ledge. It's gonna have to be blasted. And I hope to hell this town does not allow anybody to blast that ledge. Because if my foundation cracks, somebody better have a good insurance policy because I'm moving. I'm not gonna live. My basement is finished. I'm not gonna live with a cracked foundation. You've got it. Someone's got to go down there and take a look at what they're built. This is 16 people, 16 condos on less than 2 acres of land. It doesn't fit the neighborhood. And as far as the sewer said last week that they're only allowing developments to develop 10 houses at a time. And this is 16. And I'm with the fire chief. They need a cul-de-sac. I don't need a fire truck backing up in my backyard because they can't make the turn. It doesn't fit the neighborhood. It doesn't. 16 condos. These are all single level houses. These are ranches. And now you're going to throw condos that are 30 feet high. It's just not in the right location. I'm sorry. It's just not.
I know before, when you first came back to us, before us, I did mention that whatever happens, however the ledge was going to be removed, if you were up to filming everybody's property for before and after,
We're going to have to comply. Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're going to have to comply with all the local and state regulations relating to blasting, and that included would be a pre-blast survey to completely survey video everyone's foundations within a certain radius. And of course, the fire department would be very much involved on a regular basis whenever blasting is proposed. And there are very stringent insurance requirements associated with blasting that would cover any possible damage that would occur. So at this point, we're hopeful that this rock can be removed with mechanical means without blasting, and that's going to be the approach that we're going to pursue before we entertain any sort of blasting.
Okay,
And I would suggest they reduce it to houses, not condos. If you're going to build back there, build houses. Don't build condos. There's not going to be parking. There's, Dyer Street, you say, is a private street. I just don't want to see parking along the side road there. We got too many kids in the neighborhood as well. It doesn't come off a main road. It's a dead end street, and it's going to continue to be a dead end street. Traffic's going to be incredible. It's all dead end streets.
Well, I can say that given the demographics of the people that most likely are going to be purchasing these condos, there shouldn't be a lot of cars. We've got, the bylaw requires 3 spaces per dwelling unit. And most of these cars have 2-car garages with spaces outside the unit as well. So I can't anticipate that you would ever have more than 3 cars per unit.
Are these 3-bedroom condos? Are they 3-bedroom condos?
I can't answer that question. I'm not sure.
Because I've got 3 kids. I've got 5 cars in my driveway. Plus I've got a company vehicle. Not too many people that have 3 bedrooms have teenagers that don't have cars. I'm saying down the road.
I don't think, and I don't know if Mr. Hastings can comment. I'm not sure how many bedrooms are proposed, but I don't have the breakdown available. But typically, people that buy condominiums of this size, these are very small condominiums, wouldn't have a lot of children. 3 cars, I would think, would be more than adequate. 3 spaces would be more than adequate to accommodate these units.
All right, George, we're gonna have to move on because we got a few more people here wanting to get questions in, so we can get everybody.
I would like you to ask Patty Ann, because I know she knows why the street is being plowed. If you could ask, you could go to her next. I'd appreciate her comments. But thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well, she's on a phone. Where'd she go?
Page 2, Chrissy.
What's up?
I think she's page 2 in this down in the bottom.
Yeah, I found her, but I don't see a way to. It's a good question. It says you're supposed to hit *9, but maybe she can try doing it again. I'll bring up someone else.
And I just want to make a comment too, if everybody could keep their comments down to 5 or 6 minutes, so we can try to get everybody in here and move this along. Thank you.
All right, well, go to Sheila. Sheila?
Sheila D.
Sheila D.
Hi, Sheila Dunphy, 35 South Douglas Street. I have many questions. I don't understand how the business lots can be accessed through our residential neighborhood. They should be accessed through the business district, which is a point 200 feet south of Rice Avenue. Looking at the plans, I see that there are 3 2-car garages, just to clarify what was just said. I don't think the parking is adequate. I don't think there's adequate backup space in the lots. I'm wondering how the trash will be picked up. Will there be dumpsters, and where will those go? Because those will take up parking spaces as well, as will the snow. I don't think the garages attached. I think that those can be considered part of the residence because people hang out in the garages. People have their man caves, even if they're unfinished. If there's a will, there's a way. One of the units looks like it almost has like a large area that someone can hang out with. I don't understand how this is not considered a multifamily development. Everything's looking the same. The 2 drainage ditches are sitting both on the residential and the business zone lots. And it's all gonna have the same appearance. We're also in, I think, a level 2 significant drought right now, and it's the end of April, which I think is kind of odd. So we do have water issues. Maybe that's why they're not able to get in there before the board. My question, if there's adequate green space, this 2 acre or under 2 acre lot is going to be stripped of all its trees and everything. And it looks like they're going to put maybe a couple of bushes there that are probably going to get damaged by the snow if they're not eaten by the deer. I think that's all I can think of right now. Trying to go through it quick so I get it in 5 minutes. And if somebody parks out of the space, the fire truck will not be able to adequately back up. And we know that people, they don't park good a lot of times. They park out of the lines, they park crooked, and it looks like that's very tight. And I think that's all I can think of off the top of my head right now. Oh, and do we ever have any of these units like this with the garages on the ground level in the business zone?
No, we don't at this time.
So my other thought on that is if they're allowed, and my understanding or what I'm thinking is the purpose of that is so that there is a business on the main level. And I'm thinking they're trying to get around it by putting the garages there, which, like I said, if you have direct access to the homes from the garages, it's part of the residence. So what I'm thinking is that if something happens in the center of town, heaven forbid, and a developer comes in to rehab the lot, they could bypass putting a business down there and say, no, we're going to do the garages because you have them over there in that B1 zone. So I think that's all I can come up with off the top of my head right now. Are there any responses to my thoughts? My biggest thought is I don't understand how the business zone lots can be accessed through our residential neighborhood.
May I address that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
This is a street. When you go downtown, you go through a residential neighborhood and you go down a street that changes zoning classifications. That's what's happening here as well. This issue has been explored with town council, and I believe town council has agreed with our interpretation that this is a perfectly normal situation.
Did you say changing the zoning classification?
When you leave your house in an R district and you go downtown, you go through a business district. So this is no different. It's a paper street. It's been there forever, and it goes from one district to another. And as far as the use is allowed in the business district. And upon close reading of the garages on the first floor, the town council, at least last time we talked, was of the same mind as I am, that those were perfectly lawful.
Okay.
I understand when you travel around town, you travel through different districts, but this is a dead-end neighborhood with one way in, one way out. And that land has sat there undeveloped, paper street or not.
I do have an email that I received from the attorney, and he does state that he is okay with them accessing Dyer Street to access the lot. It's just like driving down the regular street.
Okay.
You're just in that corner that's.
I mean, that's a business, but I guess it doesn't matter, so, okay.
Chairman, I'd be happy to address a couple of the questions that were raised earlier. I'm very familiar with this location. I grew up here. I can remember when South Douglas and North Douglas and Holbrook Street and Cottonwood and part of Rice Avenue were dirt roads.
Who was this?
Tom Hastings.
Okay.
And to look at the subdivision standards of roadway design, I'm very familiar with those built, in fact, subdivisions in Rockland. But you can't retrofit that to all situations. Obviously, before you get to Dyer Street, you drive down South Douglas, and before you get to South Douglas, you drive down Rice Avenue. And all those streets, Rice Avenue, Cottonwood, North Douglas, Holbrook, end in dead ends. And Rice Avenue did, South Douglas did for many, many years without a turnaround. So this isn't a perfect situation, but it's vastly improved. Right now, you have 18 feet of pavement with a massive outcropping of ledge. and 2 houses that really don't have the type of fire protection and the type of snow removal that when the roadways widen to 24 feet within the 50-foot right-of-way, they'll receive. With regard to the ledge, probably no one, unfortunately, I probably know more about granodiorite than I wanted to. Probably no one's removed more ledge in the north part of Rockland than I have. So I'm very familiar with blasting. I've never had any issues blasting hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of ledge very near to this site. So it can be done with mechanical means or blasting without the residents being impacted. The burden's on the developer. We'll do a survey. No one's property will be damaged. With regard to snow removal, the condominium association will take care of the snow removal. That's obviously something that needs to be done and will be done. Parking, Rockland has really, where design's going today, has 3 parking spaces requirement per unit. Most towns only require 2. So there's more than adequate parking for 2-bedroom condominiums because empty nesters typically buy this type of condominiums. And I've been very surprised Rockland really hasn't built any new condominiums in many, many years. There's been a couple small 40Bs, but really not the type of housing that was built in the past. I think part of that scarcity land, but also part of it's been the marketplace. So, you know, a landowner, I was faced with what's the best use for this property. Obviously, some type of business use didn't make sense. And I tried to look at something that is reasonable in terms of density rather than doing a comprehensive permit. You know, I obviously want to get this approved and I want to work with the planning board and the other town boards to do that. The water department not answering the phone, not scheduling meetings, obviously in America doesn't fly. So I'm very disappointed that, you know, if they've got serious issues, then I'll be more than happy to eliminate the amount of infiltration that they're encountering or leaks that they're encountering to offset the amount of gallons that we'd be using. The same thing with the sewer. So I think everybody needs to be responsible here and move forward in a professional manner. And I appreciate all your input. I think the fire department, you know, has a difficult situation. They've always had that. They're the most important thing when it comes to looking at these, and certainly the standard of fire and safety needs to be met. And I think we're meeting that. And if the fire department still has concerns, you know, I'm aware of the correspondence and the design. You know, I'll do everything that I can to try to meet those. But I can't rebuild this situation given the Rice Park layout to accommodate everything. I can try to make it the best it can be in a reasonable fashion.
Are these going to be individually owned or rentals?
The way the project's designed right now, they'd be for sale townhouses.
That could change if they're not sold.
Well, they'll be sold. There's tremendous demand for housing in Rockland. Things,
I would suggest not condos, especially in a neighborhood. A neighborhood setting should have houses.
I think it's a great use of the land. It's something that Rockland needs.
I think it's too much for the land.
All right, we'll go on to the next person.
I think Patty Ann is gonna try again.
Okay.
Patty?
I think she's there.
She's on the phone and
Oh.
so she was gonna try after. Oh, hold on, let's try another one.
Right, yeah.
She's up there twice.
Like Hollywood
Can
Squares.
you hear me now?
There we go.
All right. I'm at 5 Dyer Street, 12 feet from the, oh, sorry, 8. Sorry, I'm upset. I am about 12 feet from that blasting zone technically on my property. When that happens, is there going to be a blasting bond? I'm listening to, going through all these meetings. All these meetings are off-piece meetings. You have a meeting over here with the zoning board. You have a meeting over here with the planning board. You know, it's like a puzzle piece to try to go to all these meetings and try to keep track of everything. My concern is the ledge. My other concern is the beginning of this meeting, they talked about sewage. Sewage going, the piping of the sewage going down. That the sewage pipe starts at the base, has a base right at that ledge. So in order to do any type of dig up, they're gonna still have to go over my property, you know, in order to get further back. Then you have the electrical. On a previous conversations, they said that the electrical that's going to be done, that's currently existing, which would be for 5 and 8, which would be for me and Jen, is not going to be touched. Yet the plan stated that you're going to be building some type of server base to address all these condos. When this subject first came up, when about having 2 houses back there, that's how it was presented, that with the lots, there was going to be 2 houses. And then in the matter of, I don't know how long, then it's going to be 16 units. 16 units. I know they've talked about that. Oh, you know, 1 unit, 2 unit, only a couple cars. You know what? Let's be real here. You know, there's never just going to be 1 car garage or 2-car garage. There's going to be traffic. Currently, right now at the fire department, even to get down to where the kids play in this woods, the fire department has to come down and they park in front of my house, you know, because they are unable to do a full turnaround with any type of ladder or with the fire department to begin with. And then you talk about the snow removal. Snow removal, I had to argue and bitch for several years to just get construction and highway to come up here. And I had to go to the state house to get that done because I have 2 disabled people in this household, you know, and when it came down to plowing, they don't plow. And when they do plow, you know, to get past that ledge, it is a nightmare for the highway department to get past the ledge, because on the corner, and if you look at your designs, you've got the ledge where the ledge base is, and then you got the corner of the property that's in front of me. What's I can't think where his fence is. To get around that ledge for even a plow truck to come up, you're then going back on my property, which is, like I said, 12, 15 feet from the base of that ledge. I'm concerned with any blasting because as of right now, we do get flooding. And I know they did a flood analysis, but no, the flood analysis that they didn't take into account of the rain. You may say you have, but you know, we haven't had tons and tons of rain. And as of right now, looking in the back, you know, we have, you know, there's a lot of trees down back there, you know, and I question when they're going back there to down these trees. So I have a lot of issues and concerns about my property and the state of this street, which when I bought this property, they had said this whole private way thing that they said that these lots were unbuildable. I bought this property because they said the lots were unbuildable and they were marshland. So now all of a sudden it's going to switch. I'm just letting you know that I have tons of concerns about this, tons of concerns about the traffic, you know, and I do. I feel like I'm being thrown under the bus. We're not really getting the information that the last 2 houses on the house. Yeah, exactly. That's my husband in the background. You know, they get the houses in the back. Me and Jen are the houses on this street, you know, and we seem to be the byproducts, you know, we're just tossed aside, you know, but yet we're the ones who are here. And we're the ones who are going to be mainly impacted. George is going to be impacted because he's losing, whether intimate domain, the 50 feet, people coming up and down that street. There is going to be traffic, you know, and there is going to be problems. There's going to be problems with sewer because there's no way you're going to get all that piping without digging up the front of my property to get the piping there. And I'm just saying that, you know, how is that going to impact me where I have a disabled child to get back and forth to school? Sorry, I don't mean to be ranting, but I do have a disabled child who has to get back to school and all that construction. You know, where does that leave us on the street getting access in and out of our own properties? I think they shut me off. I bitched too much.
Probably did. All right, thank you. Yeah. You will have a plan in place when they start construction. That will be one of the things, because the road has to be kept open. That'll probably be coordinated with highway and probably fire, making sure everything is clean. All right, we'll go on to the next person, Chrissy.
Bill Osimo, Onessimo.
Hi, Bill Onessimo, 522 Union Street. Mr. Chairman, I want to appreciate you taking your time to hear some of my concerns. My first concern, I know it's probably not related. I brought this up at the Conservation Commission, but I have some flooding in my backyard, and I mentioned that, and I got an, oh, well, we really don't care. I feel kind of slighted about that. They couldn't guarantee me that my yard isn't going to flood more, or it was going to be alleviated. That's one of my issues. The drainage, the blasting is another one. Are we going to have a bond for this? I mean, Mr. Hastings, I appreciate you taking your time out tonight. I'm also heavily involved in construction too. I've dug up dirt all over the world. And I know the machinery is going to rattle the ground and rattle foundations, even if you don't blast. That's about all I got.
I just to cut you off here, sorry.
That's all right.
We do have one of the rules that if you have video feed, we do ask that you put yourself on video so we can see you, because if everyone was held in person at town hall, we'd all see you.
Okay, I don't know how to use it. Yep. You want me to rant over again, or are we good? Or?
No, but at least we know who we're talking to and everybody.
Like I said, Mr. Hastings, I appreciate you listening to our concerns. Just work with us. It just doesn't fit the area. You know, plus I don't want to lose my property. I've been here 23 years and I work hard. I lived in Rockland 48 years. That's all I got.
All right, thank you.
All right, Kilgallen.
Yes, thank you. Brian Kilgallen, 32 Rice Ave. Oh, I'm sorry, my video isn't on.
Yeah, just can put the video feedback on.
Okay, I got it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Brian Kilgallen, 32 Rice Ave. I want to echo just one thing that Patty Ann said. The same thing happened to us. We were told that that property was unbuildable when we purchased our house 32 years ago. And the two quick questions that I have is, number one, if Dyer Street is a private road and it's going to be considered association fees associated with it, are the existing owners going to be liable for those association fees? And doesn't that cause an undue hardship for them? And my other question is, are any of these properties 40B? And that's it.
Well, the answer to the second question is no. This is not a 40B. This is a application under the B1 zoning district regulations, which allow multifamily as proposed. So it's not a 40B at all. With regard to the first question, in all likelihood, there will be a condominium maintenance and liability agreement that will take care of the road. As to the existing owners on the road, we'd certainly like to talk with them, but we haven't done that yet. We'll see what happens when we get there. It's not like we can skip plowing the road because we have to go through their property to get to our property.
They wouldn't be part of the condominium. And the condominium will take care of it. So the roadways getting upgraded, the utilities are getting upgraded to no cost with the
And
resident.
they'll reap the benefit of that. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Since Rob Rosa is still here, do you have any questions, Rob?
This is really the first time I'm seeing it. As it stands at this point, they haven't come to zoning for anything. I'm wondering about, I see the dead end of the road and I see parking in that right of way, in that private right of way.
We've changed that, that we don't need to have that parking space in the right of way, Rob.
All right. Yeah, again, they haven't come to zoning, so I haven't really looked at this 100%. Speaking as a resident, this thing is awful. This is disgusting. I mean, this is the you're shoving 16 houses, 16 units at the end of a dead end road. Come on, man.
There's condominium developments all over the town, Rob.
Yeah, but this is not beneficial to this road at all. At all.
Woodland Place, Cullivan Farms, I go on with developments. In fact, some being built right now that are much more dense, that are on dead end roads without cul-de-sacs.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
tend to disagree with that one, sir. I don't know any road that is not either a return road with houses off it, meaning it's a loop or something. Cullivan Farms.
Woodland Place.
Anyone that ends in a cul-de-sac, it doesn't end in a cul-de-sac.
They both don't end in cul-de-sacs.
Which one?
Cullivan Farms off of Hingham Street doesn't end in a cul-de-sac. You've got the units
It
that
has loops through the parking lot, sir, that allow us to move. And there is a circle at the end of that. So again, you're misrepresenting stuff.
Well, excuse me. No, I'm not misrepresenting things.
I believe you are.
Well, let me make my point. Cullivan Farms, the development that's being built right now at the end of Norman Street, the senior housing, about 84 units, that doesn't have a cul-de-sac. That has a turnaround in their parking area, the same that we do. And then you've got the condominium that was built off of Market Street, the small one, backs up to the golf course. That just ends in a dead end without a turnaround.
You're gonna have to narrow that down for me. Condominium complex, Leah Drive? That's a large enough parking lot. We can spin a ladder truck around in that parking lot, sir.
But it's the same layout that we have, that we're proposing.
It is not the same layout, sir.
All right, well, we can go over that. I thought it was.
We're gonna, I'm sure.
Okay.
I agree. I just want to ride in the truck.
Well, put cul-de-sac in, I'll give you a ride.
There you go.
All right, we do have one question here. This is actually addressed to Mr. Hastings here. It's from Bill, who was just on Omissimo. Can you address the flooding, please? I don't know exactly what he's.
Well, I can't address the flooding that's happening right now because I haven't built anything, but even without planning board rules and regulations and zoning bylaw, I, as a landowner, don't have the right to flood anybody. And if I did, they would have a great lawsuit. So any design, any construction can't flood anybody downstream. It's that simple. And it won't happen. I've never flooded anybody in any of the developments, thousands of units that I built.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, we would ask to be continued to your May meeting. When is that?
What do we have on the agenda, Chrissy? We're looking at June.
Probably June.
Receiving calls for Concord at summer for motor vehicle accident reported rollover. Concord at summer, motor vehicle accident reported rollover. Got 9 calls on this.
I would say June 22nd. Oh, but that's 365 Concord Street too. The public hearing.
Okay. Companies responding when out there report that there isn't traffic. I have to go.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Be safe.
Yeah.
All right. So. Are we looking at July then?
Yeah, maybe July 27th. If something changes, before then, we can revisit. But I would say July just to be safe. And then maybe it'll give them time too to sort of find out the information they need to find out.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we continue this to July 27th.
Second,
All right, we have a first and a second. We'll go through it again. John,
Yes.
Randy,
yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
James, who's muted. He's giving the thumbs up. And I'm Michael. I say yes, we'll schedule you in for July 27th, and if something should change before then, we'll get in touch with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much.
Everybody stay safe.
All right, we're gonna do a little reshuffling of paper. I need a bigger office. All right, next on the agenda, we have new business, a site and design review for ADA architects for the Primrose School at 0 Hingham Street. That's map 9, lots 9, 38, 41, and 42.
Ready to go? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, if you guys are ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Mike,
Kevin?
can you hear me? Yep. Good evening, Kevin Grady from Grady Consulting, representing the applicant for the site plan approval. I'm here along with Matt Taylor of Primrose Schools and Jeffrey Dirk of Vanass and Associates, who did the traffic impact assessment. I'm just going to share my screen and walk through the plans real quick, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine.
So the application is for site plan approval. The project is for a preschool, specifically the Primrose Schools. The Primrose School is a national school. They have schools in over 30 states, and they have 3 schools here in Massachusetts, Mansfield, Natick, and Burlington, I believe. And they may have one other under construction currently. So the facility is 14 classroom, 200 person preschool facility. Just go back to the existing conditions here. You read the assessor's maps, designations. The site is a 13-acre parcel. It's bounded to, the majority of the parcel is wet. The front 2 acres is going to be developed into the site plan that I'll be reviewing in a second. The site is surrounded to the north, east here by the Dunkin' Donuts. Across the street here is the hotel, the Days Inn, I believe. To the west here is the entrance to the Abington Rockland Waterworks. Across the driveway there is a residence. And then all along this southerly boundary is the Abington Rockland Waterworks as well. So the parcel currently is undeveloped. And the applicant would like to construct a preschool facility here. The site is in the H1 Industrial Park Hotel District. Preschools are not listed in the use table in this district. However, preschools have an exemption under the state building code, chapter 40A, section 3. I've designated that, written it on the site plan, that it's exempt from use regulations. So the applicant's looking to build a 7,000 square foot footprint school. Based on the number of classrooms, the site is required to provide 31 parking spaces. We're providing 47 spaces for access to the site. The circulation pattern that we've designed and discussed with the board members and different departments is a one-way routing for circulation. So cars will enter and come around and park and drop off and then exit. I'll turn this over to Dirk toward the end to discuss the traffic and circulations in more details. I'll be getting to that shortly. So it's one way, 47 parking spaces. The exterior of the site is surrounded by concrete walkways, access for school children. We have handicap accessibility, and the green is either landscape grass or woodland, and then the pink to brown area is playground for the children. So we've been before the Conservation Commission. We received an order of conditions a few months, about a month ago, 2 months ago. We have approval for connection to the town water. We have approval for connection to the sewer. I'm just going to go to some of the construction sheets here real quick. Go over the stormwater. It has been reviewed by Pat Brennan. Your peer review consultant has been reviewed by Henry Nover, the conservation's peer review consultant. We are proposed due to the the limited area of upland and the location of the wetlands resource area. We don't have a lot of upland area to do surface drainage. So we are proposing subsurface drainage, and we have requested a waiver. So the parking lot drainage, it goes through catch basins to an oil and grit separator, and then into the subsurface drainage. The roof drain ties right in to the subsurface. Those are concrete galleys, 4x4 concrete galleys. The rear drainage for the playground is also concrete galleys. The playground base is synthetic turf. It will not be grass. The turf is much more maintenance friendly in this case. Stormwater will flow through the turf to a subsurface crushed stone drainage bed. We modeled this as a subsurface drain, and then it flows through to the catch basin once it crests, and then out through the galley system. We have designed, just get to the landscape sheet. We provided our landscape architect put together a landscape planting plan. It includes details of the plantings, areas of grass seed, various mixes. And so this is a well-planted landscape island. So is the entrance of the facility. We provided vehicle turning through the parking lot. The parking lot, those islands are just painted islands. They're not raised islands. We will to aid in maneuvering around the parking lot for both emergency vehicles, typical autos, and also trash removal. it was suggested that just painted lines would make this routing simplified. We've provided lighting plans. We're showing 0 luminaires along the perimeter of the property. Nothing shines onto abutting properties. We've submitted detailed architectural plans. It's a 75 sheet set of plans I think we submitted. Let's see. I think that's all I have for site layout. I'll ask that Jeffrey Dirk discuss the traffic impact assessment, and if Matt Taylor, who is with us, has anything else he would like to add for specific to the use or the Primrose schools themselves, he can chime in.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, why don't I jump in before Jeff?
Okay.
Thanks to the board for your time. I appreciate it. You did a good job, Kevin, of explaining what we're about, but we're a little bit larger company. We have about 450 locations nationwide, and we have 6 locations in Massachusetts and proposing quite a few more as well beyond this. Rockland's been an area we've been looking for a while for the right location, and this one fits our bill well. I certainly can answer any specific questions, I guess, towards at the end of everyone's presentations, but that's really all I have at the moment.
Chrissy, did you enable Jeff to speak? And are you still awake, Jeff?
I am, and thank you, Kevin. Are you gonna drive the slides?
I can if you'd like. If you
Yeah.
want to drive, that's fine.
No, that's perfect. If you've got it called up, that's great.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Dirk. I'm the managing partner with Vanessa and Associates, and we're the transportation consultants for the project. Before I start, I do want to acknowledge I have been on for the whole meeting. So I did obviously hear the initial presentation dealing with the marijuana dispensary just down the road from this site. I heard the context with respect to the Hingham Street corridor, and I think that bears out in our analysis that I'll go through with you as well. But I did want to just make it clear, I heard the concerns about the way that corridor operates, and I think our analysis does bear some of that out. So I'll very quickly go through just a kind of a high-level summary of the transportation assessment that we prepared, and then certainly available to answer any questions that you might have. Next slide, Kevin. So just by way of an overall summary of the transportation assessment. So this is a full assessment that was prepared in accordance with Mass DOT standard guidelines for transportation impact assessments. We also worked very closely with the town, and by that I mean we consulted to make sure that we understood projects that were proposed in the area, including several marijuana dispensaries that the town was entertaining at the time, as well as a Wendy's restaurant that was going to occur along the Hingham Street corridor as well. So we coordinate with the town just to understand all of those parameters, as well as kind of the concerns with regard to the Hingham Street corridor. What's important nowadays, of course, is when you're reviewing a transportation assessment, you want to understand when was that data collected and how the COVID-19 restrictions relate to what's being presented to you. We're fortunate in this case that the data was collected pre-COVID. I know this says that we adjusted to account for COVID, but all of the data collection was done just really prior to March of 2020. So the data was collected in early February of 2020. So it was prior to any impacts relating to travel and schools. So the data is a valid pre-COVID data point that we used in this assessment. So I did note that the project will not have a significant increase on motorist delays or vehicle queuing. I do want to preface that with saying that that's over existing conditions that are in the area, and it in no way implies that there's free flow conditions along the Hingham Street corridor. I think the next bullet point bears that out, that the analysis does acknowledge that the Hingham Street Reservoir Park Drive intersection which is where the road really necks down, does have operational deficiencies. And those deficiencies are what was noted as a part of the earlier presentation in terms of vehicle queuing along that roadway during the peak hours. So the study bears that out. We acknowledge that. The project's impacts on that intersection really amount to an increase in delay of about 3.5 to 4 seconds. And I think importantly, as you look at the queuing along that corridor, and I know again, the comments relating to left turns, both entering and exiting driveways along this corridor are extremely difficult, and it results in queuing. As we looked at the left turn to enter this property, the increase in queuing was about 2 vehicles along that section. So it will impact through traffic movements approaching the Reservoir Park Drive intersection, because as you know, it's a right turn. If we're heading southbound, it's a right turn lane and a single through lane. So if someone wants to make a left-hand turn, they're going to do that from that single through lane, meaning that if you want to go straight and head south along Hingham Street, you're going to need to probably travel in the right turn lane to go around that vehicle and then get back in the through lane is realistically how that's going to happen. And so the increase in queuing relating to these left turn movements to the site was about 2 additional vehicles. Relative to the safety along the corridor there are motor vehicle crashes that are occurring, obviously, but the number of crashes in relation to the volume of traffic is not disproportionate, meaning that it didn't exceed any state criteria. Mass DOT collects crash data, they analyze it, and they determine crash rates for the town of Rockland, and none of the intersections that we studied had a crash rate that exceeded Mass DOT averages. And there are no high crash designated locations along this corridor as well. And we did look at that. Relative to the access into the property itself, Kevin showed you the site plan. We're concerned about 2 things relative to the access. The circulation that Kevin had mentioned, that one-way circulation is important, and I'll explain that in a few minutes, but also sight lines are important. So we did measure the speed of traffic along this section of Hingham Street and made sure the sight lines, so a vehicle exiting the site looking to the left or right, to make sure that they had adequate sight lines for the speed, the actual speed of traffic on the roadway, not the posted speed limit. And we did determine that with the some clearing of vegetation along the frontage, you did have the adequate sight lines. Next slide, Kevin. So I'll move things along a little bit quicker here now. This site just shows the context of the project in relation to the Hingham Street corridor. So you see the site shown in yellow. The Reservoir Park Drive intersection is just to the south and to the west of the project site. And then of course you see the Home Depot and the interchange with Route 3 to the north. This site, because it's a preschool, so what you're going to have is parents dropping off children primarily on their way to and from work. As we look at the traffic flow along this corridor, it is prevailing heading towards Route 3. So about 60% of the traffic in the morning is heading northbound towards Route 3, and the exact opposite happens in the evening. So what you're going to see in terms of the prevailing traffic flow entering the site is going to be predominantly a right turn in and a right turn out the majority of those trips. Next slide, Kevin. So this slide shows the study area that we evaluated. So traffic counts were performed at each of these intersections, consisting of Reservoir Park Drive, the driveway to the Comfort Inn, because we line up, our access lines up with that driveway. And then of course, important is our neighbor to the north, which is Dunkin' Donuts, because another critical thing is the queuing in the morning that happens with regards to the drive-through facility. And that's important in terms of where Kevin located the driveway into the property. So just by way of some numbers here, and this will kind of bear out what the members were speaking of about the Hingham Street corridor. So Hingham Street corridor over a daily basis accommodates about 25,200 vehicles per day. So that's 2-way traffic going by the project site over a 24-hour period. And as I mentioned, in both the morning and the evening, the peak hourly flow is about 2,500 vehicles per hour. The prevailing flow is northbound in the morning, southbound in the evening. The speed limit in this area, it transitions, it's from 35 to 40 miles an hour in this area. So we measured travel speeds over a 2-day period. So we measured the speed of about 50,000 vehicles over a 2-day period. And the prevailing travel speeds were pretty close to those posted speed, to those speed limits. So pretty close to 35 miles an hour. And one of the reasons for that is the traffic signals at both Reservoir Park Drive and then just to the north of the site as well. That really, those signals control the speed of traffic along this corridor as well as the volume of traffic. So both of those kind of keep the speeds down to something close to the posted speed limit in the area. This slide also shows where there are sidewalks, and you can see there's really an absence of sidewalks in this area. The only sidewalk is along Reservoir Park Drive in this area. And there's no formal bicycle accommodations. That's another thing that we look at. But Hingham Street is sufficiently wide that per Mass DOT guidelines, it provides sufficient width so that you could share the traveled way. And that means basically the travel lane plus the shoulder is sufficiently wide so that if there is a bicyclist riding along the shoulder of Hingham Street, you wouldn't need to cross the center line to go around that bicyclist. Doesn't mean it's comfortable in any way to ride a bicycle. It just means that the roadway provides sufficient width to be able to do that. This quarter also, we look at public transportation options. There's no public transportation service in this area. So I mentioned those latter points only in that we want to look at ways to reduce the amount of traffic primarily related to employees. And so we look at are you able to walk here? Are you able to bike here? And can you get a bus here? And I think the answer to those last 3 points is there's no sidewalk, so you can't walk here. There's no bus service, so you can't bus here. And so really what we're looking at as we talk about ways to kind of encourage reductions in traffic is really looking at things to encourage people to carpool more than anything else. Next slide, Kevin. So this slide here shows the amount of traffic the project is going to generate. So this is new traffic to the Hingham Street corridor. So the higher number that you see, the 486, if you look at the totals to the right-hand side, that's the two-way traffic going in and out of the site over the operational day of the facility. So if you stood at the driveway, counted every vehicle that went in or out, in and out, I should say, over the course of the day, that's the number that you'd arrive at. So if we looked at the Hingham Street corridor, and I had mentioned it accommodates 25,200 vehicles per day, this is the number that would get added to that 25,200. So that's how that number relates. So you can see it's a relatively small net increase in traffic, but the corridor again has a high traffic flow. During the peak hours, so as I was talking about 2,500 vehicles per hour during the peak hours. So these next two numbers relate to that volume of traffic. So during the morning peak hour, so this is the highest traffic volume hour, that on the Hingham Street corridor, it occurs between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. That's when the traffic peaks. The project will add about 108 vehicle trips, and it'll be 57 entering, 51 exiting. So you can see those numbers are pretty close, and that's the reason for it's really the pickup and drop off. So, you know, you have 57 vehicles going in, 51 come out. There's about 6 that are still waiting to drop off a student during that time period. So that's why those numbers are a little off a little bit. And then in the evening, so this is the highest traffic volume in the hour in the evening, which occurs somewhere between 4:30 and 5:30 on Hingham Street. The project will add 105 vehicle trips. So it's 49 entering, 56 exiting. So again, those numbers are pretty close because it's people coming in, picking up, and then leaving the project site during that time period. Next slide, Kevin. So once we've understood the volume of traffic the project's going to generate, this shows how we expect it's going to distribute itself onto the Hingham Street corridor. So you can see about 40% is to the north, 30% is to and from the south. It's really a relatively balanced traffic flow is what we're expecting from the site, but we do expect it's probably more prevailing heading towards the Route 3 corridor than heading to the south of the project site. The Reservoir Park Drive connection, of course, that gets us also over to the Union Point. So that's why you see some traffic relating to the residential units in that area as well. So the last slide where we showed how much traffic the project will generate, this slide shows how it gets added to the Hingham Street corridor and to each of the intersections that we studied. Next slide, Kevin. So after we've assessed the impacts of the project, we've developed some specific recommendations relative to the access of the project site. And a lot of it deals with things that Kevin has incorporated into the site plans. So I mentioned the location of the driveway. If you recall looking at Kevin's plan, the driveway is really, it's pushed as far south on the site as possible. And that's done on purpose because we know in the morning, the vehicle queues related to the Dunkin' Donuts facility. That's perfect. Thank you, Kevin. They back up and queue out onto Hingham Street. And so the separation of this driveway between where Dunkin' Donuts driveway is and our driveway, you can stack about 6 to 8 vehicles in queue curbside along Hingham Street before it starts to interact with our driveway. And so that's pretty important because it's a reality in terms of what happens out there. And so the design of the project site accommodates that. The other thing, you can stay with this slide, Kevin. The
Okay.
other thing that's important with the internal circulation in terms of our recommendations is this one-way traffic flow. And we know this was recommended from the town. It's very efficient in terms of pickup and drop-off operations, but it also is a very important point as it relates to the Hingham Street corridor. Left turns, as we mentioned, are very difficult, both, especially to get out of any of these driveways. If you don't have access to the traffic signal, sort of what you were talking about with the dispensary up the street from here, then you're going to have queuing within the site. What this one-way circulation pattern allows is for the queuing to occur internal to the project site without blocking the ability of vehicles to be able to enter the site. And that's very important, because what we don't want to have is a condition where people waiting to make a left-hand turn to get out of the site, if they blocked the internal traffic flow, then people wouldn't be able to enter. And that would result in what's happening over Dunkin' Donuts, a type of situation where you have queuing on Hingham Street. So this site plan avoids that, because it allows us to store that exiting queue on the site and then have more than sufficient distance to allow vehicles to continue to enter. And the excess parking that Kevin had mentioned, that's important as well, because that allows for vehicles to stay in some of these parking spaces to the extent that any of the internal queuing would block their ability to be able to exit. So it's very important in terms of that flow as well. You can jump back now, Kevin, to the recommendations. I think I covered most of those. And then the last one is really the transportation demand management program for the project. So really what we're doing, we don't have sidewalks, we don't have public transportation access. So really what we're trying to do is manage the employee-related travel on the site. So encouraging people to carpool to the site, and then making sure that within the building itself, I think some of the important things are try to make sure that there's accommodations so that you don't have to leave the site to get lunch if you don't want to. So a lot of those accommodations, including having a break room, microwave, refrigerator, all the typical things that you would see in a break room facility, want to make sure that they're offering direct deposit of paychecks, things like that. You know, they seem like minor things, but they're very important. If they're not provided, then people are, they need to leave the site to do some day-to-day things. So we want to make sure that those are provided. And then Kevin has shown we've got sidewalks within the site, very important for the pickup and drop off operations. We have suggested that bicycle parking also be provided to the extent that somebody does want to ride a bike to the site. So that is a high level overview of the transportation analysis. I'm sure there's lots of questions specifically with regard to the Hingham Street corridor, and I'll be happy to answer those either now or later on in the presentation. And I thank you for listening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Unless Matt has something to add, I believe that is enough of a presentation for now, and be happy to take any questions.
All right, let's see. I see Charlie. Do you have any questions?
I do. Jeffrey, can you tell me again the number of cars on Hingham Street daily? Was it 25,000?
Do I
I
need
think
to
Chrissy
unmute?
needs to let him back on. Yeah, that's what I recall him saying as well.
All right, let me.
25,400, I believe.
It was 25,200.
Oh,
It was a lot.
So 25,200. So we're creeping in on 30,000 cars or traffic trips on Hingham Street in a 24-hour period. Is that correct?
I think you're back on, Jeffrey. If
No,
you
he's
should
not.
be. I don't see your red mute. Is it on your end?
I don't even see him. Is he there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's there.
All right, why am I not?
I don't see the red mute on you, Jeffrey. So
I
now
do
you're,
still see
now you're
it.
muted.
All right. Wait a minute. There he is. Oh my goodness. Sorry.
No apology necessary. I'm just glad it wasn't me this time. So, those numbers are 100% correct that we've mentioned. So 25.2, and we're adding 486. So right, you're approaching 30,000 vehicles per day along this section of the corridor.
Okay. I mean, obviously that is my main concern. I am in favor of the project. I think it's needed. I just don't know that we're going to be able to manage that kind of vehicle traffic on Hingham Street. My other question was, and you made a valid point about the queuing of vehicles in the parking lot. How many vehicles do we think we're going to be able to queue in the parking lot before you're queuing out onto Hingham Street?
So we've predicted that the queuing within the site will be somewhere between 5 and 7 vehicles. And I think if you looked in the site itself, I don't know if Kevin, if you could get a dimension from the driveway to like the back on the, let's say the exiting drive aisle.
Yeah,
It looks like it's,
doing that. The length of the parking lot's 150 feet. So you have 150 feet in and 150 feet out for 300 feet of potential queuing.
yeah, so that distance there, if you stacked everything wrapping around the project site at 300 feet, you're talking somewhere between 10 to 15 vehicles you could queue if you filled the entire site with vehicles. And we're not predicting that would happen. What I think you might see is queuing from Hingham Street, probably extending along the front of the building. But it shouldn't wrap around the parking area at all like that.
Okay. I mean, that's going to be my major hurdle, is how we're going to deal with that traffic issue. I mean, like I said, I'm in favor of the project. I've looked over the plans. I think it would be a welcome, asset and amenity to the town, but I don't know how we get around this traffic issue.
So we did look at like retiming the traffic signal, and I think what you're hitting upon is like when you start to approach the 30,000 vehicles per day, what we want to have is basically a 2-lane, we'll call it 4 lanes or at least 2 lanes with a center turn lane, something like that you've seen elsewhere to get some of the traffic out of the way, especially the left turners. Unfortunately, one of the things that we looked at doing here was if you retime the traffic signal, you're not going to gain a lot of capacity because that right turn lane, you really want to have like 2 through lanes or a through and a through right, but it doesn't line up when you go through the intersection to add a lane there and then drop it after the intersection. One of the things that you could do, when we did look at this, is potentially restriping that right turn lane so that as you come up to the intersection, instead of it being a solid white line all the way up to the intersection, is that you make it basically a broken white line for some distance. And maybe what we would do is break that solid white line for the right turn lane, probably extending up to the Comfort Inn driveway or just after the Comfort Inn driveway, so that you could actually use that it would be like a through right turn lane, so that what you could do is what I described, which is that if someone's waiting to make a left-hand turn, you could at least use that lane, go around them, and then get back into the through travel lane to continue.
They're going to probably do that anyway.
Yeah,
breaking that solid white line there. I mean, that's one way to allow at least for someone to bypass the left turning vehicle, because right turns, sort of like what you were discussing with the dispensary, right in, right out. You could do that very efficiently along this corridor there, as long as you've got enough stacking internal to the site to deal with your queuing. It's really that left turn movement. And I know you were concerned with that with the other properties as well, as you should be. This is one way to at least allow for a left turn to enter and someone to go around them in using that right turn lane.
So I also, just to jump in real quick, I measured the center line length of the enter exit, and that's 400 feet. So because it's flatter down here, there's a lot more run. And if it was really an issue, cars could go too wide or park in parking spaces. There is quite a bit of queuing opportunity within this parking lot.
Yeah, and I think that's key. But what I don't think is acceptable is that intersection at Hingham and Reservoir Park needs to be redone. It was never designed to handle the capacity that's there now. I don't know what kind of mitigation, you can do, because that's a state road, to alleviate some of that. I don't know. There's no easy answer to it at this point. I don't think. I mean, you're right. Your site on site, with the queuing on site, I think could handle it. I just don't think that Hingham Street's going to be able to handle it. That's my concern.
Okay. I'm gonna jump to Pat Brennan. Sorry, Pat, I didn't see you on my screen, so for your comments before we continue.
No, that's fine. But just to back up for a second with the, like Jeff said, the existing total vehicle trips on Hingham Street is 25,200, and they're adding just under 500. So they're still under 26,000. The 30,000 is still quite a few more developments away, but it is coming with some of the other stuff that's coming along. But I didn't know if there was confusion that this was this driveway was adding more than the 500. Jeff's numbers are 486, with 243 in, 243 out for the day. I reviewed this project. It came in back last August. I submitted three different letters to the board. Had a number of comments in a letter that I had back on August 21st of last year. The majority of those have been addressed for the submission that was back in September. And then they submitted again in January, and I sent a letter to the board the end of last month, basically saying that they had addressed my comments. I had been in constant contact with both Kevin and then also Henry Nova along the way with the drainage design, to make sure that that all worked. And the only comments I have left are related to the waivers. They're seeking 3 waivers. 2 of them are the high density polyethylene drain pipe and the subsurface detention, the subsurface drainage basins, which we just talked about on the 1015 Hingham Street project. And then the third one is in relation to site distance. Your rules and regulations require longer site distance than what the AASHTO standards are, and they're just asking that you allow them to go with the AASHTO requirements, which, as Jeff had mentioned in his presentation, with some selective trimming on either side of the driveway, they'd be able to make those meet those requirements for the AASHTO site distances. I did not at the time, and because this was back in August, and I never asked the board if you wanted it peer reviewed for traffic, so I never sent it out for that. But I believe and Jeff, maybe, I'm not sure if he checked the level of service, what it does at the intersection with Reservoir Park Drive, but I don't believe it makes it any worse. I know he said 3.5 to 4 second delay, but I'm not sure if Jeff wants to touch on that a little bit for what the level of service is. I mean, in the percentage wise, it's adding some vehicles, but 486 divided by 2, it's adding less than 2% of traffic volume to what's out there already.
That's right, and I appreciate the corrections, Pat. So there was no changes in the level of service as a result of the project,
right,
at any of the intersections, because of what you had said. It was, but again, it doesn't imply that everything's working great out there, but it didn't make anything. So anything that was operating at a D or better, which is considered a limit of acceptable traffic operations, continued to operate at a D or better, and there was no changes in levels of service as a result of it. But if a movement was operating over capacity, it would still operate over capacity, but the net increase in delays was marginal. As I mentioned, up to 4 seconds, and an increase in queue of about 2 vehicles. So, again, those numbers don't show significant impact resulting from the project. And I thank you again, Pat, for pointing that out.
That's all I had right now, Mike.
All right, thank you, Pat.
Hey, Pat.
James, do you have any comments?
No, I mean, the traffic's going to be an issue, as everybody talked about, and short of what one of the gentlemen had pointed out, making, a 4-lane with the turn lane. I mean, this is going to be specific traffic times at the school, morning and afternoon. So you could put a police officer there to direct traffic during those, probably an hour, morning, hour, afternoon would be, a possibility, I would think. If, it was deemed necessary, and it's, it's got left hand, both sides, it's going to be an issue, obviously.
I do believe there's some staggering of start times at a preschool. That's a little unlike a public school where everybody shows up at one time. I believe there's, and Mac will probably talk to this better than I could, but we did discuss this internally, that, the real younger kids come a little later, and, the toddlers may be dropped off on the way to work. But so there is some staggering. It's not ringing the bell and everybody comes at once.
Yeah, if the board would like, I could certainly go into it in a little more detail. And this comes up obviously on most applications, and we do not operate like a regular school. So our pickup and drop off times are typically over a 3-hour period in the morning and in the evening. And I would kind of venture to say too, in the last few hearings, we've had a lot more discussions on other projects about how staggered work schedules are probably going to change based on COVID. So I think if anything, it's probably going to make a situation where we have a lot more off-peak people coming and going. And we're already seeing that as our schools are ramping back up now, with people going back to work. They're dropping their children much later, or picking them up earlier because they have more flexible work schedules. But we're not going to be a 6:30, 7 a.m. for the whole student body, and it just doesn't work that way. So I feel too that we've got a pretty good circulation with this site. And I pushed for additional parking with Kevin when we were designing it for that very reason, because we require parents to physically park their car, get out of their car, and bring their child into the school, sign them in, and get back in their car. So there is some automatic relief to queuing by that anyway. It's not like a parent can drive up to the front door and wait for someone to take their child. That's why we utilize a larger parking lot than normal. So hopefully that adds some clarity to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, James?
Nope.
All right, Randy?
Although that was part of, this is pretty much a childcare, correct? It's not a school. You can have school buses. It's going K through 6. My thing was, is it staggered? Because I know they've done that before at other places where the younger ones come later and so on. But with the COVID, as you said, the schools were opening up. People are going to be pulling up and parking in there, stopping and waiting for them to come out and get the kids. Are they going to be going, that could be the difference in the traffic as well, and the queuing and everything else. Or are they going to be coming, walking them to the door, double parking spaces? That's the only issue I see with a decision that by the time this, comes to fruition, which I think the school's a great idea. Maybe it will be lighter, who knows? But if it gets worse and comes back, you gotta have a bunch of people sitting in a parking lot waiting for somebody to come out and get their kids and not have the also. It's my whole thing was the staggering of the times.
Sure. And again, maybe I should have clarified a little bit better. I mean, our policy and our procedure is that a parent needs to bring their child to the school, sign them in. Now, certainly in the strictest realm of COVID, parents would bring their child to the front door. They were not allowed in the school for obvious reasons. But that whole scenario will go away, and we'll go back to what we were doing before, which is a parent will physically park their car, bring their child into the school, sign them in, bring them to their classroom and return. It's about a 7 to 10 minute turn for an efficient parent who's done it a bunch of times. I don't foresee any issues with queuing in this parking lot based on my experience. I've built better than probably 50 to 60 of these schools for Primrose. This is a really ideal layout from a parking perspective. And the last thing we want to do is create a queuing issue where a parent, a child is trying to cross a drive lane in between cars. It's obviously not a safe situation. So this is not going to create that situation. Based on my past experience, I really don't think it will.
Okay, can we just start again? So I'm bringing, from what age to what age do you decide when the person, the child has to be walked in and signed in, or the child's old enough to just go in and then it's the same thing coming out? Parents got to park, go get their kid and come out.
No, there's not an option. I mean, a child needs to be released to their guardian within the building. We don't allow children to leave the building unaccompanied without their guardian or parent. So that's never going to change.
So all the people pulling in are going to be parking. They're going to be
Correct.
walking their kids, then they're going to be pulling. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Mr. Lucas.
Couple of things, Mr. Chairman. On the Form K that was submitted by the Highway Department, I'm assuming, and my eyes are too old to read the prints good enough, but I assume you're putting granite curbing all the way along the front on Hingham Street as well as the radius is coming in?
Correct.
Okay. How wide is that entrance? Is that entrance going to be wide enough to accommodate, say, 3 cars wide, 1 lane coming in, 2 going out, 1 that wants to turn right and 1 that wants to turn left?
I'll get that info for you on one moment.
The entrance at its narrowest point is 32.9 feet wide.
Yep, that's what I have.
So that you could have 3 cars across there?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just figuring if someone's going out and wants to turn left, it's gonna take them longer because of the traffic flow to do it than someone turning right. The Highway Department also recommended a walkway to an adjacent property. They didn't specify any further. I'm guessing they're talking about a walkway going over to Dunkin' Donuts.
We could add that if it's something that the planning board would like. I don't know if I saw these comments, John.
I think Chrissy could probably forward them to you. But they're recommending a walkway, and regardless of what you put inside the building for the employees, there are some that are gonna go to Dunkin' Donuts, or they're not gonna get their fix for the day. And I'm assuming you're gonna submit a BMP to the Highway Department for basic maintenance on your catch basins and the other things that they're requiring or asking for.
That I didn't see that, but that is in our stormwater management program. So we do have maintenance program set up.
Okay, and the only other thing I think James mentioned it, possibly after you get started or so, or maybe at the beginning, have someone to help control the traffic coming in and out. I don't know if you want to go to the expense of a police officer, although maybe you'll have to initially anyways, but has that been given any thought?
I mean, I can jump in here, Mr. Lucas. These schools ramp up over a couple of year period. So, we are having enrollment capacity of 180 so kids. I mean, we don't start with that, and it ramps up pretty evenly. So parents are trained out of the gate, to follow the rules, so to speak. And I try to avoid the idea of having a municipal police officer there. Obviously, there's an expense associated to it, but I think that I think if parents are trained well and listen, and most of ours do, not all of them, but I think we can alleviate any issues. But that being said, we don't want to create a situation that's untenable too. So I think we can, if something arises, we're always open to discussion to make it right. So we're long-term citizens of the towns we're going into. We're always open to suggestions.
Now, I don't want to spend your money. I mean, you work hard enough for it. I'm just wondering if it's something that had been considered or would be looked at to see if it's needed as you progress.
Yeah, no, I think if we see that there's a problem, I'm sure the public safety officials and we can come to an agreement.
Other than that, I think it's a great project. I look forward to seeing it happen, and that's all I got, Mike.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, John. Deputy Chief Henny, do you have any comments? I know I have a Form K, but that was from August of 2020.
I don't know if I can remember that far back. Just again, the additional traffic, the making the left-hand turn. The talk about all the traffic queuing up scares me, that if we have to gain access to that with both an ambulance and a fire truck to go to a medical, that the traffic's going to delay our response in there. And just taking a quick look at that swept path for the ladder truck kind of moving around, I'm wondering if we can, you're putting our bumpers right on into some of those parking stalls, and you put the front tires right on some of that curbing. So maybe if we can tighten up some of the radiuses and maybe diminish some of the curb markings down the bottom, the back corner there.
Down.
Yeah, right in there. It just looked a little tight.
So these aren't raised.
They're paved.
Those ones are striped.
Yeah,
just
my
for that.
apologies. I left the meeting, so I just kind of jumped back into this late.
Yeah, no problem at all. I think that was part of my discussion with the department heads and your K1 form, that raised islands might be problematic, so that we turn those to striping in August. And I forgot about it too, because it's been a long time. It took a long time for us to get on the Conservation Commission's agenda, and I think that's been the main delay on here. And then once we got through there, planning board was then busy, so that's dragged on a bit.
So the last question I guess I have is on the left-hand island as you're exiting the parking lot, those bushes down on the left, keep going further.
Left?
Yeah, right here.
Yep.
Are those going to be bushes, trees, just for the line of sight and vision is probably my.
Yeah, we'd eliminate I think those are existing and they're just showing on this sheet.
Okay, because I know we do training in the water department, and even in fire trucks, it is at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock at night, it's impossible for us to make a left-hand turn out of there. So short of steering people to the right and forcing them to go to the right, I just think you're going to back up further than, way further into that parking lot than you really think. Especially if, I know you're staggering your times, but I've had kids that I put in daycare, and when I had to drop them off, I had to drop them off, and I just apologize and throw them through the door. But cars are going to stack up and we're going to have a problem. That's my fear. And then you're going to have, people rushing to go to work to try to take a left out of there. And there's horrible visibility, people going into Dunkin' Donuts. It's just, I'm for the project, but I just don't want to see a, young parent leaving their kids and getting a bad accident because they're taking a left.
All right. Thank you. I do have another Form K here. I don't know if it's been revised since October from the sewer department. The initial plan, review of the plan is pending submission of the interior plan showing the cafeteria, restrooms, etc. by the developer. And so on. Do you have approval from sewer?
We have been in contact with them. I've sent them information on what the kitchen facilities entail. And the only question they had was whether or not we were going to do an internal or an external grease trap. I sent them the information. that they requested, and I did not hear back from them. I don't think they have an issue with capacity or the piping. It's just, they just don't send you an approval form or anything, Mike. It's somewhat of a secret.
And I have a Form K here from the water department too. That was back from August.
I had a meeting with them in February at the same time that with the hockey rink, and they approved the connection. And same thing, no form, no thanks for coming, Kev. It was a great time. You're approved.
And all their concerns about the construction of the project and everything like that was, they were happy with it.
We did discuss, yeah, exactly. We did discuss the drainage system and how close it was to the reservoir, et cetera. And we explained that we met the regulations and that we, water quality was 1 inch as opposed to a ½ an inch, et cetera. And they were all on board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just so everybody's aware too, Pat did send an email way back in March that the marijuana facility 1015 Hingham and the Primrose School properties do actually close to each other. How big the property is, you know what I mean? But they still like 640 feet or so away, property to property. The school to the store, streetwise, is a lot farther, like 1,200 feet or so. And if they have approval first, you know, just so everybody is aware. I do see a question, somebody with their hand raised, Chrissy.
Okay.
If you could just give your name and address.
Oh, I think she's, there we go.
Cherry Valley, 411 Pond Street. I don't have any objections to this project, but after sitting through this meeting, we're going to approve this project, marijuana dispensary, shingle mill is still up in the air, and there's the GMOD overlay district. Has anybody in the planning board done any kind of a traffic study with all the projects considered altogether?
Well, traffic studies were done for both these projects. Shingle mill goes before zoning. That doesn't come before the planning board. And if the GMOD should get approved at town meeting, I'm sure there will be traffic studies if and when people decide to come before the boards with buildings.
To the extent that it's helpful, Mr. Chairman, we've included I think we've included 3 marijuana dispensaries in the Wendy's restaurant I mentioned, in addition to general growth. So there's an attempt to capture all of those projects in the transportation analysis.
Thank you, Jeff.
We have the hours for this school?
I can address that, gentlemen and ladies. It's 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., 5 days a week.
Okay. You got a dumpster there, off hour, empty, all that?
Yeah, I mean, we will obviously accommodate that off hours. It's the best time. And I don't think we have any, and I may misspeak here, but I don't think we'll have any issues with off hours emptying it out with residents, correct? We're pretty far away from any residential folks. Except, you know, our other neighbor. I'm open to whatever time works for that. It's usually a couple times a week.
Yeah, because you do have a couple dwellings right on Hingham Street going.
Yeah, I apologize. I realize that now.
And maybe you mentioned it, maybe I just didn't hear you, but I'm on page 4, actually, the page you're on. Proposed a 3 foot, does it say 3 foot deep, 40 mil poly barrier? Is that the AstroTurf?
I'm sorry, you're directing that question to Kevin or myself?
Kevin.
Probably Kevin would answer it better.
It is, yeah. It's an impervious barrier underneath 3 feet below the AstroTurf, so that when the drainage hits it, it runs along that and then goes into the either off of the wetlands or into the subsurface infiltration system they have over there. I believe that's what it's for, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, my mic was off here. And I didn't know what sheet you were on. So the poly barrier is on the back side of the retaining wall so that the stormwater does not get circumvented and run out the wall. It's supposed to go through the drainage system. That's all that's there for. So it's subsurface.
Okay.
Parking lot fenced in. Gate or barriered in.
There's
somehow.
a guardrail proposed on the rear here. There's no fencing. There's a deep landscape island here. This is well landscaped. And then the back is woods and wetlands to this side. So it'll have street views, views from the street, but on all the abutting sides will be screened by vegetation.
I know it was, it was a recommendation of the deputy chief there to remove the trees at the left-hand point up on Hingham Street so you can get a better sight line.
I'll actually do both points.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could do both points if you get a better sight line both ways. And I don't know if you can replace it with some other type of planting, some low type of plantings or something like that, just to spruce up the entrance a little bit, still have the good sight lines up and down Hingham Street.
So here is
If
the land.
if you plant flowers as opposed to a bush, you know what I mean, that's gonna impede someone's view if they're in a compact car.
Correct. So if you look at the landscape plan here, we've removed those trees. There is a sign here, and then there is a flower bed here, grass surrounding that. On this side, we've eliminated all the trees. It's grass and a flagpole. So we will have good sight distances with that change. I think the sheet was a little misleading, the other sheets, because the existing trees still came through.
Yeah, because it said that there was 2 remain, you know what I mean?
Oh, they did on that sheet? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on the other page where they were, you know what I mean, it said they were 2 remain, but
Yeah, there's one you can see just barely here. It's in the street. That's obviously coming out.
Okay.
We're showing grass throughout here, so we will remove it. If you want to condition that's fine. We absolutely want to have good sight lines, and we will make sure that happens.
What about some sort of a traffic review down the road? Is that something? I'm not trying to keep beating this up, but this street, we all know how it is, especially turning in from the opposite lanes, et cetera. Do we review this later on down the road? I don't know.
That's something to consider, like, since, what's it, Reservoir Park? drive there is not that far away. Because traffic coming out, taking a left is gonna be almost impossible.
Yep. And they're
Because
moving, they're moving when they
by the
come out.
time the light changes, people are coming out of the other way. And you're never gonna really get across. Is there a way that you could put a light there to trigger, to be synced with the traffic signal, so at least people have a better shot of exiting? And maybe move the stop line farther down on Hingham Street, closer to the hotels and your entrance, so that people can get out. I know it's a state road. I don't know if you can do that.
Actually, I think there's a town layout in this location.
Is it a town?
Yeah.
It is, yes, Mr. Chairman.
So maybe Jeffrey can speak to this better than I can.
You know, I mean, if it presents a problem, because I think it's going to be a problem sooner or later.
I think it's something we'd be willing to look at, you know, at any time, because the Primrose School is going to want to have safe and adequate access to their facility. They want their clients to be safe, and if they get a reputation of having an unsafe property, then it's not going to you know, be good for them. So it is something that we can certainly look at. One of the things I also wanted to comment on is that a lot of times in these situations, the people who are dropping their kids off here are already somebody that's on the road here. They're on their way to work. They're probably gonna pick a school that's on their route. So probably a small percentage is going to be an increase in the traffic. I think it's going to be people who are already using that road who just happen to be young and having kids again, who will be
COVID kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because even on the traffic analysis, you know, I mean, 30% were going down Hingham Street, 30% were going to Reservoir Park and through. That's still 60% of the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on the prevailing traffic flow, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, so it might be worth it to put in a light that you could sync up with the light at Reservoir Park and move the stop line down farther so that people have a fighting chance to get out. Going in the morning, I don't see it as much of an issue as when people are trying to get home. Because you're right, people will go to a school where it's, if they're headed to the highway, it's in and out. But coming home, they're coming off the highway, taking a left into the place, and then trying to take a left out. The majority of the people. Or somebody that they have pick up their kid. You know what I mean? A family relative or somebody like that, you know what I mean?
Right. Are there any plans within the town to improve Hingham Street? I mean, it's obviously a question for all the residents. Every project I've worked on around here, this comes up. Is there any future plans? Is there a fund or anything that you've started to put together to address some of these issues, or is this going to land on this one developer in this one location to buy a light for this? I mean, because it appears that this is your main exit for, you know, Rockland, and you've got some development coming. I'm sure there must be some.
There was plans in the works before to widen Hingham Street when they were doing over what is now Union Point.
Yep.
But since nothing has really happened in Union Point, nothing is happening on Hingham Street.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I do believe that there is some talk and looking at it between Norwell and Rockland now, as far as working on Route 228 down Hingham Street, probably as far as Reservoir Park. How fast it's moving or what's going to exactly happen, but I do believe there is a group, committee from both towns and the state looking at doing something with Hingham Street.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Chairman, there's also an option of, you know, putting the do not block pavement markings out there. I mean, that's an option that's used as well when you're close to traffic signals. So, you know, that would keep at least the area where the driveway is clear so that there's an area for vehicles, if they're exiting, to be able to have a chance to get out and make that left-hand turn, as well as keeping it clear for vehicles that are waiting to enter the site, making a left-hand turn.
That's true. I know they have that farther down on Hingham Street.
Right.
Right by the Home Depot before
Yeah,
that.
I actually don't know how well it works, because I've been down there at certain times and people just park right through it. Drive right
Yeah,
through it.
yeah, it does require some enforcement to at least let people know you're not supposed to be in there. And hopefully if it's regular commuters, they'll know that, hey, you know, there could be a possibility of getting a ticket, but it is effective with some enforcement.
Does Sherry have another question, or is her hand just raised from before?
It's probably just raised from before.
Mhm.
But let me just. Yeah. Yeah, she shut it off.
Okay. Just making sure. All right, any other comments from the board? All right, hearing none. How does the board feel on the site design?
I'll make a motion that we approve the site design with conditions.
I think Sherry raised her hand again.
Did she?
Yep.
It's not on my screen.
Yes, she is.
I did. I'm just looking for more information on that group that's working on expanding Hingham Street.
I don't have any more information on that, Sherry. I do know there was some talk not too long ago about extending it, but when you're talking with the state and two towns, it takes a little time to get something going.
Who would that go through though? The selectmen, the highway department? I mean, where would be the starting point?
I think it would probably be with the selectmen of both towns and some division in the state.
Okay.
I believe there's some grants out there to try to do something, but it takes a little time to get these grants in place.
Okay, thank you.
How does the board feel? Well, what happened?
You want the plan back up?
Everything's gone. Chrissy, what happened?
Is that working again?
No, I see nobody.
What? I see everybody.
I get
Me too.
everybody.
Clean your glasses, Mike.
Yeah.
Can you see everybody?
No,
You can't?
no, I see Zoom United.
Oh, I can see you.
Really? Well, all right.
I'm gonna try stopping the screen share again. Maybe get them back.
I think we can all see, but I don't know where you want.
I don't know. I can't see anybody, but whatever.
We can all see you.
I hope I look good. I know it's hard. All right, how does the board feel?
I think we have a motion on the table.
Did we have a second on that motion?
I will second it
With conditions.
with conditions, correct?
With
Thank you,
conditions.
Randy.
Mr. Chairman, seeing as Pat Brennan went over the conditions, do we want to have to read them again or just include them as he wrote them and Chrissy can copy them from his report?
I think we can just include them from Pat's email. The three conditions.
Three waivers, yeah.
Three waivers. Like, I think they're even on the plan somewhere.
I think they're right down the bottom.
Yep, they do include it on page 2. They do list the waivers that they're seeking.
A waiver to use HDPE pipe instead of concrete, a waiver to use subsurface detention retention, and a waiver to reduce site triangles.
All right, we have a first and a second on the site plan with conditions. Go through it again. John,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
James? Is that a yes? All right, I'm Michael. I vote yes. Include Pat's conditions and our regular conditions. All right, and we'll move on to the site plan. I mean, the design review. Oh, if I may, before we go on to design review 2, can we add a condition on there, since we never really made a conclusion on what we're doing with the light or the traffic on Hingham Street, that at the bare minimum, we stripe it so people don't block the exit, so they have a fighting chance to get out at the Hingham Street to take a left?
You can add that. I'll make a motion to add that condition, Mike.
I'll second that.
And if further review pending, I don't know. 6 months down the road, I don't know if it has to be readdressed. If they get a details or something like that at peak hours or anything.
Yeah, I agree with that, because if you're on Hingham Street, it always has to be reviewed unless you're at a set of lights, literally in the set of lights to let people in and out. Otherwise, I just think the way with the amount of cars and vehicles, you're gonna have to review it. It's something new every, the first 6 months.
I don't want to interrupt the board. I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking for, just so I can, make sure that we can comply. So 6 months out from opening, so to speak, just take a relook at how traffic is doing with us getting in and out of our site, something like that. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And what I don't want to end up with is, full-time detail at that intersection, 12 hours a day. And I'm being facetious, I guess, but I just have to be careful about that. But I'm certainly open to reviewing how we're doing, as a grade report.
I would say upon opening, within the first 6 months, it doesn't have to be 6 months. It could be the first month, depending on what happens through the fire department, police department, or complaint department, any department, highway department, just to see where you're at.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I understand where we're going with this. Okay, that's great. No, not a problem.
Yeah, per opening, once you open, you know what I mean?
Yep, no, that's fine. It's a good idea.
Okay, we have a first and a second on that to add to the conditions. We'll go through it again. John?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
James?
Hold on.
Is he muted?
I can't see anybody.
He's waving.
Oh, I see him.
Oh, all right, we're going to consider that a yes then.
Yeah, he's muted.
Yes.
No.
All right, I'm Michael, I vote yes.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we'll go on to design review.
So we submitted, are we ready to go? You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we submitted architectural plans along with the site plans. Matt may be able to talk about the Primrose School's architectural style, but basically this is their typical front entrance.
I can run through it, Kevin.
Okay.
Just because I'm more familiar with it.
Probably bang the nails.
So actually, the two-story building you see here is something we developed for Massachusetts. We actually just finished one up in Woburn. It's a pretty attractive looking building. We typically try to do single level where we can on larger parcels where this parcel couldn't accommodate it. We've had some more that can't. We've tried to develop something that looks architecturally pleasing but also works for us. So it's a mix of stone, hardy plank, architectural shingles, stone wainscot along the bottom. These colors aren't very representative. It's a little bit lighter and brighter than it looks with the screen share Kevin has. But it's an attractive looking building, we think, and it's been well received in most of the towns we built it in. It's wood frame, truss roof construction, is very conventionally built. And we try to make them look as pleasing as possible without a big commercial appeal to it. So that's really it in a nutshell.
Small sign, awning, cupola, and then we have the more detailed architectural plans. So hip roof. These are pretty detailed. Actually, this is here we go.
Matt, the one in Woburn, is that on the one on Lexington Street?
Yeah, it's the old Sons of Italy site.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
we just finished it. It'll look very similar to this. So if you want an idea what it looks like.
Good looking building.
Okay, thank you.
Front elevation, rear elevation. And then north and south. Plenty of emergency exits, as well as just access to the playground. Same with this side and the rear. Is there anything specific you'd like to, anything else you'd like to see in the design review?
Is that all basically a brown color? Just, I'm trying to look at the print. But
Yeah, so this is black and white. I was looking through my info. The only color I have is the one that I had up a moment ago. Matt, maybe you have.
Yeah, it's really more beige than brown. So that's saying with some green accents. So Kevin, the color, at least on my screen that Kevin was sharing, is pretty muted. It's a little bit brighter than that, but kind of colonial in nature. It's not loud at all.
okay.
I was even checking the website, and you have lots of pictures of children and no pictures of your schools.
I'll talk to my marketing department about that, Kevin.
Okay.
I'll let them know. Not my wheelhouse, fortunately.
But butterflies.
Those are for you.
Thank you.
I noticed the same thing, actually.
Yeah, so just look at this elevation Kevin's sharing right now. Like that green is not as again, not as muted. It's a little bit brighter, and the brown is a little bit lighter as well. And the stone is going to be more of a New Englandy granite look versus that field stone look. So one of the board members, I can't remember, one of your board members commented you saw the Woburn building, which obviously isn't super near you guys, but this is almost a duplicate of that building.
Yeah, I thought I had more color photos for the board. Sorry about that. I thought these were more clear.
I'm sure they look really nice since I can't see them.
Are there any specific questions I can answer just at all on it? I don't know. If there's any specific things someone would like to hear.
Yeah, I have a question. Just on your architectural site plan X1.
Yep.
Around your air conditioning units out there,
Yes.
so that'll be fenced off and it has a locking mechanism on it to keep kids out?
It does, yeah. So these buildings are designed with split systems. Just the way the building is set up, the roofs couldn't support conventional package rooftop units. So the condensers are all adjacent to the playground area, but they are fenced and it's locked. Children have no access to them.
And just like the other access gates and stuff?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Just like the other access gates that
Right.
you have to the playground areas?
So the play area is completely fenced with a 6-foot fence that children cannot get out of. And the playgrounds are also subdivided per age group. And the building's set up where the age group appropriate playground is adjacent to their classrooms.
Okay. Do you have outside security cameras?
We have security cameras. It's a little tricky because we do not want to be filming children. So we do have security cameras around the building, but they're not necessarily in the play areas, but parking lots, entryways, things like that. Yes, we do.
Okay. No, that's what I was wondering, just God forbid if somebody wanted to take a kid,
Yeah, it's very secure. The only entrance into and out of the building really is the main entrance. All the classroom doors are exit only for the most part, and they're key locked to get back in. So it's a very difficult building to get into outside of the front entrance. And there's 2 vestibules actually in the front entrance as well. So we do think about that, unfortunately, these days.
All right. John, I'll ask you to, if you can roll call through everybody, John, and see if they have any questions, since you can see anybody, and if people have their hands raised.
Okay.
In the audience.
Charlie, do you have any questions?
Do not.
James?
No, I don't. It looks good. You guys put a lot of time and money into it, so looks nice.
Thank you.
Randy?
All good.
Mike?
No, I think I'm good. I don't know if anybody in the audience has any questions.
No, there's no questions.
I'll make a motion that we accept the design review as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a first and a second on the design review. John?
Yes.
Charlie? Is that a yes?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Randy?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Michael, I vote yes. Nice. I'm glad that one's off the books. It's been a long time coming for you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it'd be a great addition to the town, and I wish you luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's kind of ironic. As a kid, I used to, my grandmother lived in Situate, so I used to drive by the Whaler plant and go the other way in 228 from New Hampshire. So that I'm only a mile away from something that I'm building now. It's always like coming back home. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night. All right.
Can you see it, Mike?
No.
Mike, what I think you did is, because I noticed the same thing, did you, by chance, I don't know how to best describe this, close the window by accident?
I don't think so.
Oh, on the computer or whatever?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
because when I moved my window, I noticed that I had that Zoom International as well, like you said.
Can I click back one? Like, how do you get back in?
When you click on the Zoom screen, like you see up in the top left, it says Zoom meeting. Can you click on that on your screen?
Try to rejoin.
No, you shouldn't have to rejoin. I think you just minimized it. It's down in the tray.
What about up where it says view? And you go to either speaker view or gallery view or full screen. Does that bring them in?
I have nothing. No, wait.
You're a chocolate mess.
Ah, look at that. There. Look at that one. Thank you, Charlie. I'm like, how did I do that?
We could see you the whole time.
I hope I look good. I hope I had my good side.
No, you didn't.
I know it's tough. All right. Then we'll move on to administration. We need to approve the minutes from March 16th that we had with the Board of Selectmen. Who can vote on this, Chrissy? Do you remember?
Everybody was there, except for James, because James got appointed.
That night. I make a motion, we accept.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to accept the minutes from the March 16th meeting. John?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
And I'm Michael, I vote yes. All right, we have to approve the minutes of the March 23rd meeting.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a first and a second on that. Can everyone vote on that, Chrissy?
I think so. Wait,
Joe?
Charlie, was that the, what was it, 23rd?
That might have been Concord Street.
That's what I was thinking, and I don't think Charlie was there that day.
All right, that's right.
Stay out of that. Yep.
Yep. All right, we have a first and a second. John?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Michael? I vote yes, and Charlie is abstaining. Minutes from the March 31st meeting.
Everybody was there.
I make a motion.
Second.
And we have a first and a second. John?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Michael, I vote yes. All right, we have bill to pay Amory Engineering.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in the interest of time, and I don't know if we can do this, we've all seen them on the agenda. Can we vote them as one package, or do we have to do each one individually?
I don't know. We usually do them individually, but I don't know why. If we have to technically.
I don't know either. So whatever we need to do. Let's just go right through them.
You can probably say them all, like say Amory this, da 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 da, and then at the end, vote as a group.
All right, we have money in all the accounts to pay all the bills.
Yes.
All right, we have I'll list off the bills and then we'll make a motion. Motion to pay Amory Engineering in the amount of $1,258 for plan review for 0 Dyer Street. Bill for $222 for plan review for 0 Hingham Street. a bill for $518, plan review for 365 Concord Street. That's where we're gonna get in trouble. Delete that. Can I have a motion for the first two for Amory Engineering for Dyer Street and Hingham Street?
Make a motion.
There we have several.
I'll second it.
Several people on that. All right, John,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Michael, I vote yes. All right, we have a bill for Amory Engineering at $518 for 300 plan review for 365 Concord Street. Charlie will be abstaining for that. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. James,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Michael, I vote yes. Charlie is abstaining from 365 Concord Street. All right, we have a couple more bills to pay out. Amory Engineering in the amount of $342.52 for construction services for $0 Hunt Parkway. Another bill for $824.60 for 1015 Hingham Street for construction services. And a bill for $927.20 for construction services for $0 Hunt Parkway. Can we get a motion?
I move.
Second.
And then we have a first and second. John,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Charlie. Charlie,
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Michael, yes. All right, one of the favorite parts of the night.
Well earned tonight.
Well, very well earned tonight. A motion to pay the secretary.
Motion to pay the secretary.
Second.
Yes.
All right, we have a first and a second. Randy,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Michael, I say yes. Well deserved for tonight.
Heck, yeah.
Upcoming activity. We have the town meeting coming up. If everybody can try to make it. I don't know what everybody's schedule is.
Can we confirm the date? April 4th? May 4th?
May 3rd,
3rd, Monday, May 3rd.
Monday, May 3rd,
Awesome.
7 o'clock. Is that when it starts or is that right, 7 o'clock and that's
I think it's 7 o'clock, Mike.
the special meeting and then the regular meeting starts following it?
Correct.
Okay. So 7 o'clock, if everyone can try to make it there, because we get a couple things coming up before it. Floodplain district, the GMOD district. I remember off the top of my head that we have to present. So if we can get everybody there, help move it along, probably get there early. I don't know what the official plan, final plan was, but I do think they're gonna be taking temperatures unless things have changed since the last time I had a meeting. I don't know if the fire department's doing it or if they're bringing down the monitors from town hall. That was up in the air. And the
I will-
relaxation of COVID rules have happened a little since then, so who knows?
I'll be on vacation that week. I will try and get up here for it.
Be demerits if you don't.
We're gonna dock your pay.
I'm gonna get demerits for being on vacation with them. So I mean, what the heck?
And we have that coming up, and then the end of the month, we're busy again. We got the Monahan rink.
That's May 25th.
Yes. Yeah, that's May 25th. I do believe.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
And then
correct.
we have, is 365 Concord Street on that?
June.
No, June.
They're in June. Who else is on there then?
406 VFW. The brewery
The brewery,
and
that's
the
right.
baseball camp.
The brewery and the baseball camp. scheduled to be on there. And who knows what else off the top of my head, I can't even think about it.
I think that's it.
Don't look so happy, Chrissy.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Do you know anything, John, coming in besides that?
No, I don't. I think Gmod is gonna be the biggest thing.
Yep. That's our town meeting. We'll see what happens with that.
Right.
Just a question on the Gmod. Where, someone else is going to be presenting that. I mean, we're going to be we're speaking on it, but there's a professional presentation on it, correct?
I believe there is. I've got to go to a meeting tomorrow and I will find out more, but I believe they are gonna do something of that nature, yes.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
that is the plan. The last I heard that someone for that was the Metropolitan Planning
Yeah.
Council was
MHC.
supposed to do a presentation.
Okay.
If that actually
If they
happens.
don't, then Charlie, you gotta do it.
I support it, but I don't know if I could sell it.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that'd be a good thing for the town.
Well, if not, then James can do it because, you know, he's got to get broken in here somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. And he is the junior man.
Is that a seniority situation?
Yeah.
He's the probie.
He is the probie.
I mean, I think it'll be something good for the town, but we just recommend it to the town, and it's up to the voters to decide. You know what I mean?
Yep.
See what the town wants to do, but I think it would be a good thing for the town. All right, anybody else have anything?
I
Dinner.
don't think.
All
What
right.
did you say?
Dinner.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh,
Second that.
see, this is like the second favorite part of the night then. All right, so let's go through it again. John,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
All right, and Michael, I say yes.
Oh,
Thank you all. That was way too long.
This is one of the longer ones.
oh, wait,
Yeah,
what
sure
time
was.
is it? That one says 10:53. Don't pay attention to me.
It's okay. We paid you. You're good.
Is Charlie still here? Look, can you see this, Charlie?
Oh, I love that. I love that penny. I've been trying to find those. You can't find them anymore.
I'll let you borrow it whenever you want. I didn't realize it had a fireman on it until I just used it.
It does. It does.
You guys all stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks,
Everybody,
Everybody.
have a great night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Chrissy.
Yes.